We're here from a small village, and we're looking to hire some fighters to train and protect us against a force from the mother world.
We fight not just for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy.
What do you think they want?
Everything.
You heard it up top. We are diving into a new, completely original mythos that absolutely isn't inspired by anything else when we're talking Netflix's Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Child of Fire, Part 1, here on Normies Like Us, with your hosts, Colin Bloodaxe, of course.
This is Mike Nemesis, but I wasn't always a podcast host. In fact, there was a time before this where there was no podcast at all that I hosted, and then a little bit later I did this one.
Your hands, Mike Nemesis, your poor hand.
I had to just do some exposition dump for you guys real quick. And also...
And this is, of course, Jake Asarius, the noble of the home mother world, as we all know.
Of course.
Formerly known as
Raised by the
Jorah.
fascist Imperium, but now I fight against them in this band of rebels, you might call them.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. 50%
You're
Moon,
rebels?
50% Rebel. Wow. We're here with Zack Snyder's latest and greatest.
Wow,
The most original film ever devised.
that's right.
It is.
There's a lot to
That's
talk
right.
about. We're going to review the, the works of the auteur himself, I guess, this one. But what were you guys thinking when you first learned that this was coming out and saw trailers? Like, Jacob, were you intrigued
Well,
at all by this?
I obviously was super into it, as you know. And I was actually waiting. I was going to wait to watch this because, as you may know, Netflix decided to try to manufacture their own Snyder cut by having. There's going to be a director's cut of this movie that's like an hour longer. Apparently, it's like a totally different movie according to Zack Snyder. So I was going to just skip this version entirely because they only did this so that you could watch the director's cut later and say, "Oh, they released the Snyder cut" or whatever.
Oh my God, I didn't realize they had done that.
Yeah. So this is not the proper way to watch this movie. You got to wait till the director's cut comes out, watch that, and then compare them, and we'll see which one's better.
It's
We're gonna have
part
to do
one.
it.
We're waiting on part 1A, Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're going to have to do this again?
Yeah.
No.
Well, we're going to do it again for part 2, of course.
No, we're
Stargazer.
absolutely not going to.
You had to watch 4 movies to watch 2 movies.
I
My
need
goodness.
to see how this epic story ends. Of course.
Yeah, with all of our favorite characters. Colin, how about you though? Did you?
Well, epic story that, of course, he also says this is part of a trilogy. I will remind you guys. The second one is shot. We do get the trailer of it at the end of this film, and then it will set up comic books, video games, a TV
Yes.
series.
As
blah,
Zack
blah, blah,
Snyder
Wow.
himself said, he's planning this to be a huge epic IP that can be built out from with all that stuff, RPG, tabletop games.
It's such a rich
will
universe.
we see any
yeah.
of that kind of thing? I don't know. Based on the
Well,
reception,
I want
of
to
this
point
movie.
out this
Yeah.
is Netflix again, and obviously Netflix is hungry for some sort of franchise like that. They have Stranger Things. They don't have much else original in-house to build off of. They've got Wednesday.
The Witcher.
They've got The Witcher, which
Oh.
is sadly coming to an end.
Yep.
In the fans' minds and hearts. But the issue here is that was also the promise of zombies plus cards. What happened to Poker Chip Zombie
Oh,
Heist
Army
film?
of the Dead or whatever.
Army of
What
the
is that?
Dead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did.
Viva
he
Las
did make a
Zombies.
prequel to that movie, I believe, but I did not see that. So
I forgot about that. So I could care less about this when I heard about it because I personally don't think Zack Snyder has talented at all, especially after Army of the
What?
Dead, which was one of the other worst movies I'd ever seen. I think he's a
It's up there.
hack Snyder. So I won't
wow.
be holding
How
holding
dare
back here, but I'm willing to have a debate. But I wasn't excited about this, and boy, did it deliver. But
Well,
Jacob,
here,
generally
can
Zack
I-
Snyder. Oh yeah.
Well, can I appeal to you guys with a bit of trivia and speak directly to
Mm-hmm.
you guys for a second? Who even cares about the fans of this podcast or the listeners? But to you guys, my fellow hosts, here's a reminder. We did an episode on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Do you guys
Of course.
remember that?
Yes. And Army of the Dead, we
Yes.
did an episode on.
And
right?
Army
Yeah.
of the Dead, yes, we did as well. So we have talked about him before. We've kind of all made our opinions known. Like, Mike, I know you think he's Zack Snyder. I think he's Zack Snyder too. Jacob, I think you probably a little less, but also agree
No, I
that
love
he's
him.
not the artist these fervent fans believe he is, right?
Here's the thing. I do think that he's an auteur in the sense that he has a connected style, both thematically and aesthetically, throughout his career. That still, there's 150 hack directors that have no style. So I'll still put him above all the people that just make generic movies. Like, even though his movies can be derivative, I think he has a style that puts him in that auteur category. So
It's like he certainly has this distinct style, and art is subjective, and it doesn't speak to me, but he does have a style. I give you a Zack Snyder movie when you're seeing a Zack Snyder movie. I concede that for sure.
I'll take him over a
sure.
forgettable, someone like a Sean Levy or something who's just so forgettable I don't even think about them. While I don't like everything that he's done, I think Zack Snyder definitely has more of an auteurness in the sense that you can look at a movie and say, oh, that's a Zack Snyder movie, just like you can look at a Wes Anderson movie and say, oh, that's a Wes Anderson movie, clearly.
We need to get that trend, the TikTok trend of, but as a Zack Snyder movie. It's probably happening now in response to this, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard to AI images that are in slow motion, Mike. That's
yeah.
Basically.
You just put epic music when you're picking up a fork in slow-mo, super close-up. That's pretty much it.
And then I ate a potato chip. He could do Death Note,
Oh, damn. He could do Death Note. Yeah, actually, give me that. It'd be better than the one they did. It's Netflix anyway.
Right. But I think, is this a good movie? No, it's not. Is it derivative?
The film we're going to be talking about today?
The most derivative movie ever made, probably. But did I enjoy watching it? Yes, I did.
Wow.
Okay, well, I'm going to need to talk to you more about that in the episode proper. But do you have a favorite Zack Snyder movie, guys? Because, the one that I like the most is Dawn of the Dead, but that's a James Gunn script, But Colin, do you have one that you like? 300's fine, I think.
I think that's the easy one for people to jump to is Dawn of the Dead. I like Gerard Butler movies, so for me 300 is like his spawn point. So yes, I find that pretty fascinating to watch. And all the criticism about Watchmen being directed page and him not understanding it, absolutely. But that's one of his early films that are still shot by Larry Fong, who I think is like the best cinematographer of all time. And to quote Brie Larson, who accepted the role in Kong Skull Island by saying, I'm going to be in a Larry Fong movie because any movie Larry Fong shoots is like a movie worth watching. So,
yeah, I like Dawn of the Dead. I like 300. I like Watchmen. And I think it's an okay adaptation. Like, I don't think it's, I think it's totally serviceable. And I think the Snyder Cut. I'll say the Snyder Cut.
No, you don't. Do you really?
Like it?
It's better than the theatrical cut of
100%.
Justice League.
Yeah.
And I like it better than his other DC movies.
Fair enough.
So therefore,
you like the scene where the Joker turns and he's like, they're like in the future and he's like, you and me have been we're gonna kiss each other, like,
reach around.
all that crazy. Yes, the reach around joke.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Love it.
I'm sure that was improv. But yeah.
But no, I think Zack Snyder, he's not a great filmmaker in the sense that he's not a storyteller. He's a maker of
story
cool
reteller.
Images.
Yeah.
His specific talent is making not even cool scenes or anything like that, just cool images, cool shots, right? That's why he uses slow motion a lot, so you can get these slow images. And it's just like he should be making, music videos or something like that, something with a shorter runtime where he can just make weird, cool shots. But when it comes to linear storytelling and that kind of thing, not his strength, I don't think.
No, but he does. I consider his visual style like maximalist. Like, it is the most over the top, but it's his style, and it can make things look really epic. Yeah,
for superheroes that works because, I mean, his idea of like Superman as a god is like that's his whole theme throughout his DC run, which is kind of obvious, but I like the imagery associated with that. So
you get some nice still frames out of these projects, at least. Yeah.
Can I just say, just on criticizing the man, because obviously he's somebody who's very easy to criticize, and to talk directly to a certain fan base. If you don't know about this, there's again, very fervent fans, a very toxic fan base or whatever, as
Right.
any fandoms get a certain portion of the fan base. It's not the
Mhm.
entire portion of it, but it's a very vocal portion online who can be prone to harassment and do good things like donate to the suicide charities that support people, specifically in honor of Autumn Snyder, who is Zack Snyder's daughter, who did commit suicide during the making of BVS, right? And they will kind of use that behavior sometimes to mask bullying behavior where they'll say, we're not evil. I donated to that charity, regardless of the fact that I'm telling, COO of WB Ann Sarnoff to kill herself every day on Twitter, 24/7, like
Right.
I did a good thing. That's bullshit, obviously.
Mhm.
And to talk directly to those people and say, like, because we're going to get into some criticism here today. I don't think it's all going to be bad. Again, the guy's easy to dunk on, but I think we're kind of
Well,
going to just laugh and have fun. And like Jacob said, like he
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even enjoyed this movie or whatever. But just to say to these fans, because we already threw out the term hack Snyder, which seems to be almost like the biggest trigger too, almost.
Mhm.
Now, if somebody to me was like, hey, Etra Oda, who created One Piece, is a hack, Colin. What do you think about that?
Mm.
I would not think two thoughts about it. I would not
Sure.
care. I
Right.
see no criticism. I do not get worked up when people do not like the things I do not like. I would encourage you to take anything we say to be not as serious as well.
Yeah.
Well, I would say this. I like Zack Snyder more than I like his fan base. And I think he
Yes.
gets
Oh, very
Fair.
much.
the worst
fair,
rap because of
100%
his
there.
fan base that he
Yes,
doesn't
I would
even
agree with that.
fully you can't control who likes
No.
your movies. And
Mhm.
what I think is funny is this movie even has a character with they them pronouns in the movie.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
wonder what his fan base would think of that because I don't think he as a person he doesn't seem like his fan base at all. Like from all accounts of people that have worked with him, actors and such, like they love working with him. So he seems like a great guy aside from
There's
his
this
Yeah.
thing about
talent as
it's
a
the Ayn
yeah
Rand stuff. I read Ayn Rand books. Doesn't make
yeah
me a crazy Republican. I've heard him say the exact same things where he's like, I vote
sure
Democrat. I'm not this hyper masculine dude people
no
think I am. So I
actually
think it is an
Yeah.
image issue, Jacob.
yeah what I get from him is that he's not really a very political person at all. He just likes
No.
things that look cool and he loves the
Yes.
hyper
Yeah.
masculine
There's not a lot of deeper
aesthetic.
meaning to
Yeah.
any of it.
No,
really.
I track.
Yes.
Right.
I look at Zack Snyder as just a 13-year-old boy who likes edgy,
Yeah.
cool stuff, and that's his mindset. But he does seem like he's having fun
Exactly.
making these. So dunking on the style, whatever. He does seem like he's having fun, and he's just
He's
likes what he
similar
likes
to
when he's
Michael
13.
Bay in a way.
Yeah.
He's like a kind of like Michael Bay, but a different flavor. And I actually prefer him to Michael Bay
Huh.
as a director. So
Michael Bay would be like,
can
this
argue about
woman
that.
is so fucking hot. And Zack Snyder would be like, this woman who's hot is so fucking badass. And you're like,
Yeah.
there is a difference.
There is a difference for sure.
Right.
That's a good distinction, Michael Bay versus Zack
Yeah.
Snyder. Okay. I think we found the
Yeah.
line here.
Who's your preferred bro auteur? Yeah.
Personally, Michael Bay, honestly, but
Well,
it is
That's
what
fair.
it is.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
Can you imagine if we watched 4 Zack Snyder Transformer movies?
I would love
Those
that.
would be interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
honestly like that's a parallel universe I might be interested in. It would be wild. Megan Fox would have been the main character as she should have been.
Still, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But she would have been like a badass
Yeah.
fighting. Like she would just fight
Give me the gun,
robots.
Bumblebee. I'll
She'd be
fucking
driving.
shoot Megatron in his
Yeah.
fucking head. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Well, some villains would try to
so
rape
much.
her, and then she would
That's
kill
the
them
other
all
Snyder thing
really
too.
graphically.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Uppercut
Yeah.
a robot, knock
Oh,
his head off
man.
in slow motion. I'm like, a human did that? That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ultra slow mo. But yeah,
What you
so
don't
we
know
found
about
the
me is I
line.
was raised by
Robots.
Decepticons. The whole
I was
time.
raised by cars.
Yeah.
It's the king love. Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyways,
Well, yeah,
and
let's.
Jacob, can I
Rebel
hear a
Moon.
little bit of your Irish accent before we get started? your space
no.
Irish accent, I should say.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
I'll
got
pass.
Not carrying a brogue. Well, we're carrying some rogues as we go to the Rebel Moon on
That's right.
right after this.
We are back here on Normies Like Us, where we are talking the new Netflix classic series, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, Part 1.
A.
Hey,
Part
Pretty-
one.
3D cut, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the rough cut.
Yeah, and this movie is, well, I think Didn't so Colin, didn't Netflix say it was going to be one movie and then split into two because it was so long that Netflix was like, this is too long, it needs to be two movies.
So it sounds like when Zach was doing his big Ted Sarandos pitches for, hey, because he is now locked up in Netflix. We should point that out. He's an in-house creative now for Netflix.
Right.
It came with the deal for Army of the Dead
That's
and
exciting.
developing out that universe. He also said, by the way, a couple years ago, pre sale to Disney of Star Wars, I made a personal pitch where I sat down with George Lucas and said, I have an idea for a Star Wars movie. It's, get this, Seven Samurai meets Star Wars. I don't know if you remember, George.
Have you heard
that
this guy named Kurosawa? And George said, "Oh, have I?"
I don't know
Yeah.
if you recall, you ripped off one of his films to make your entire starting point, but I would like to do that as well. And George Lucas very quickly said, no, that sounds ridiculous, because I truly think his pitch was, and it will be adult. There will be a crew of Jedi. They will cut people's heads off. It will be awesome and bloody and gory.
The
I'm the
13-year-old
300
instinct.
guy.
I'm so mad that
It's
we
gonna
didn't
be so
get this
cool.
movie as a Star Wars movie. I'm so mad about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, honestly,
But
yeah.
just to say real quick, that ends up leading to him pitching at Netflix, where, like
Yes.
Jacob said, he says, I have this idea. Ted Sarandos says, that's too long. I have a better idea for you. That's two movies, which I think now, of course, has been, that's three movies. That's Snowball.
That's
Snowball,
incredible.
Snowball. So,
Well, I think
sorry,
he,
as you guys were
after pitching it as Star Wars, after failing to pitch it as a Star Wars movie, he also pitched it to Warner Brothers as a movie independently. Warner Brothers said no. He also pitched it as a video game, which, again, I think this would work better as a video game,
Yeah.
but we'll talk about that.
I think this would work better as a video game.
yeah.
That's interesting.
A video game or a TV series. Eventually, it landed as a movie at Netflix.
Basically
so.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
this
in-house.
movie,
Yeah.
let's, get into it, right? We
here's-
got the
yes.
Mother World.
We're gonna go through. Here's what
Yeah.
I want to say about all of it. We're gonna go
Yeah.
through all of it. I just want to. I don't often read these, but in the little notes I sent to you guys, I'm pretty proud of the synopsis I put together, because here's the big joke I want to read. Because here's the
Yes.
main criticism you could give about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Cora, an ex-space marine and current space farmer, believes she must bring together a band of space outlaws to teach a village of wheat farming space Vikings how to fight against space Nazis.
Yeah.
Now, this is a film where basically Zack Snyder goes, anything's cool if you just put the word space in front of it.
I mean, is he wrong? Is he
Right.
wrong?
That's the
I don't
question
know.
of this podcast that we're going to try
Well,
to
here's
answer
what I'll
today.
say. And I
Yeah.
said I enjoyed watching this movie, and I'll tell you why.
Wow.
As I may
okay.
have mentioned on this podcast before, I just have a very low bar for any bad sci-fi or fantasy IP. I will watch it. I will ingest any old garbage. I don't care. I love bad
Is that your
sci-fi and
wheelhouse?
fantasy. So yeah, you're telling me I get to watch a bad Seven Samurai Star Wars movie made by Zack Snyder? Hell yeah, I'm in.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a certain, every once in a while, you just want to go to Taco Bell, and you know what it is, but you go anyway.
That's right.
And that's kind of what this is,
Now, yeah, and to say this movie is derivative, yes, every single
baby.
element of this movie is taken from something else and combined together in the most generic sci-fi universe ever created, possibly.
Yes.
But that's
A
what we
lot
have.
of
Yeah, I
jokes have
guess
been
broad
made.
strokes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, just to joke real quick, that a lot of people have said, like, but this movie's like an AI wrote the script. This movie is like an AI wrote the script. It is
Yeah.
pulling every element and putting it together in
But
a
it's
way
like-
that you did when you were 8 years old, going like, and I have a dark sword
Right.
that cuts people with the magic called the push. It's not the force, it's called the push. Like,
Push.
the
Right.
things that you would do.
Yeah, or it's like someone's first attempt at like screenwriting or something where they just accidentally create the most generic plot of all time and then say, "Hey, this would be really cool if I've never seen another movie."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you've
That's the
never
problem.
seen this plot archetype before, you would think it's super original.
Yeah. Without going into like super details, I was describing it to people like, everything in this movie you've seen in another movie, just done better. And it's frustrating because a scene will begin
Just done
and you'll
better.
immediately know where it's going. Like there's no tension
Right.
because you know how the whole scene is going to go, and it always goes
Yeah.
exactly the way you predict it to.
And I described it after watching it to you guys. I said it's like a video game, all the cutscenes edited together into a movie. And I think that stands because the way this movie is structured, I can see the beats where there would be like action in between the cutscenes that you could do as the player, which is why I think it would work better as a video game.
And structurally, it's, we said it's Seven Samurai, but we'll get into the details. But it's the farmers' chorus there, they get threatened, and then the whole movie is we're getting the band together, essentially, just going to get the crew.
Classic heist thing of getting the gang together, meeting all these badass heroes that each has like one distinct thing about them. And then the movie's essentially over. Yes.
Yeah. It's like one confrontation at the end, but yeah.
And basically,
before they even get to their destination. Yeah.
No, they don't. You kind of get small scenes or tiny vignettes when these characters are introduced of how cool they are, but really it kind of comes down to the bad guy at the end being like, all right, line up. Let me tell the audience exactly who everyone here is.
Well, this is the mission where you free the slave. This is the mission where you go to the gladiator ring to
gladiator
get
planet,
general.
cyberpunk planet.
Or your contact at the bar got arrested before you could get there. You're gonna have to do this stealth mission of getting around and going inside, like you can't see it, like it is a video game.
You gotta get the bar fight.
Let's start with how does this movie open up? Well, one of the first things that you see, and I don't know if you guys remember this, is a spaceship going through. Let's call it what it is: a space vagina.
Space is working.
It is a portal. And this very phallic spaceship going through this space vagina.
Phallic is an understatement because this spaceship is literally a long shaft with two boosters at the back of it, and it is emerging through, exactly like Jacob said, a vagina in space. While you hear Sir Anthony Hopkins, who, if you said to him out loud, guys, hey, what was it like making Rebel Moon? He would say, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Thor 4 was called Rebel Moon? That's fascinating.
Well, that's the great thing about Anthony Hopkins, like Brian Cox, these older English actors that will literally do anything if you give them money. They will be the voice of Arby's. They will do anything for a paycheck. So you can get the esteemed Anthony Hopkins to narrate the opening of your movie. Yeah.
Before I want to stay on talent for sure and then keep going through the beats. But before we keep going, just to go back on the creative end, Mike, can I blow your mind for a second?
Please.
And say that it's not just Zack Snyder, because of course Zack Snyder is the director. He's the DP as well. This is his second time doing this. He did that for Army of the Dead, which notoriously looks like dog shit, this film as well. He's using his busted camera system that has a very strange shallow depth of field. I don't understand why he does this.
He loves the rack
Jacob
focus.
defend in a minute. But to say he brings on a writer, it's not just him, does unfortunately have a hand in the writing as well. This is an original story by him. But it's Shay Hayton as well, who is the writer of John Wick 3 and 4. So not someone who's dog shit, dude.
Right.
But someone who is brought on to expand the lore of the John Wick universe, maybe, and make it more with how each movie it kind of expands the lore.
Kind of a lore guy.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. We got a little bit of Wick DNA in here. Some of the action scenes kind of want to be. They're play acting at John Wick a little bit sometimes here too. So. Yeah.
But we have the villain of this movie, Admiral Noble. The Darth Vader, if you will.
You don't know.
Do you get it? Do you get it though? Because his name is Noble, but he's a bad guy.
Not noble.
It's so deep,
noble,
dude.
And he doesn't have a lightsaber. He just has like a cudgel, right? Like a staff.
He has like
a bone staff.
Yes, it is. It's like I forget what they call them. Irish people would carry them around. It's
shillelagh.
Like, yes, a shillelagh. Thank you, Mike. It is like a billy club.
There's a lot of space Irishness.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam told me that. Yeah.
But it also, doesn't it in one scene heat up like a lightsaber, or he unsheaths it for a moment and it is kind of a lightsaber?
I think it's just a stick. But there is things that do heat up like a lightsaber.
There are. Yes.
Well, you can see where there would have been lightsabers if it was Star Wars.
Oh, for sure.
But if you didn't know, these are obviously space Nazis. You can look immediately by seeing their uniforms and say, well, I wonder if this empire is like fascist in any way. You can just look
Yeah.
at their uniforms and you'll know. Um,
You love that show, Peep Show, Jacob. It's literally that meme.
Yes.
Are we the baddies? It's
Yes,
Are we the
my
baddies?
little
Yeah.
outfit has skulls on it. I'm wearing like a little Nazi hat. Like there's
Mhm.
no
Yeah.
mistake. There's no subtlety.
It's like George
No.
Lucas called his stormtroopers, which was like a group of Nazis, but that's
Right.
more subtle than this.
Yeah.
So
Admiral Noble, he's like a skinhead looking kind of guy who's like, I don't even know how to describe him.
he's just evil. He
he's just
loves
evil.
doing Nazi shit in space,
But-
you know?
This is Ed
Yeah.
Screen.
Ed Screen, listen, I'll get to my fun fact that I know you guys are ready for, that Normie's going to care about. But
I
first,
can't wait.
we meet this planet or moon, I suppose it is, right? It's a
Mhm.
backwater moon of
I don't
milk.
know. yes, I'm
hence
shocked.
the rebel moon.
How do you know these things? Are you
Whoa.
reading this? This is
I don't
incredible.
know. I don't just have them all in my brain.
Wow.
But we meet our heroine, Cora, who is a mysterious outsider, I guess, who's living amongst these village
Space
of
Vikings.
space Vikings. As we meet Corey Stoll, the leader of their clan. Later, he has a very space Viking-esque beard.
Space
So we
beard.
meet Cora. We meet Gunnar, our Luke Skywalker, if you will.
Oh, this is
in
like
this movie.
guy looks like Gary O'Connell, like not Jerry O'Connell, but like kind of related
This
to
Yeah,
is
him.
Gary
you, Mike.
O'Connell.
I see this.
I don't like it.
This is you.
I
Are
don't
a
like
handsome
it.
white guy.
Michael
This is you,
Huisman.
dog.
I don't like this
Michael
guy at all.
Huisman.
I don't know how
But
to
yes.
say his name. Michael Huisman.
You pointed out he's from that the first season of that
He's
spooky
Dutch.
show. Jacob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was in Haunted House
Haunted-
on the Hill.
Yeah.
He's also in. Okay, let me just get this out of the way real quick, because this is
Okay.
the first thought I had about this movie. It's the only thing I could think of for
You're
like the first 20
vibrating right
minutes
now.
of this movie. This movie, the Admiral Noble, the Darth Vader, and the Luke Skywalker of this movie, the actors that play them, played the same character in Game of Thrones. Now,
And-
do you guys know who I'm talking about? Do you remember this character?
I do.
His
I
name was
don't.
Dario Naharis. He was
Okay.
like a guy that worked for Daenerys.
Leader
when
of
she
the
was in-
free fighters. What were they called? The Sack
Yeah, he was,
Men? What the hell were they?
Yeah, he was the leader of a band of mercenaries who
Yeah.
agreed to work for Danny in Essos. But if you remember, he was played by Ed Screen in the first season, I think,
Oh.
and then recast to Michael Huisman later on in the show. And they
Because
don't
somehow-
look similar at all.
No.
At all, and they didn't even try to make them look
No.
similar on the show. But Jacob, it was somehow one of
Wow.
those things where Ed Screen gaslit us all, where he was literally like, "I'm a movie star. I'm too
Yeah.
big for Game of Thrones," and he left to be the villain in Deadpool 1. And you were like,
Right.
"Oh, I guess he is a movie star."
I
Not
think
really.
he was going to be in Fury Road in the Nicholas Holt role at some point,
Oh,
but
thank God that didn't.
I don't
happen.
know. Yeah, but no, he played him very differently. But Dario Naharis, I mean, Normies, I know you all care about this. Dario Naharis. Two actors
It's
playing the
so
same
weird.
role, and now they're in the same movie, and they're literally the Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker
Yeah.
of this movie. That just
Did
like
they
blew my
talk about
mind.
it, Jacob? Did they bring
They
it
had
up
to on
They
set.
share
Yeah, I'm sure
they
scenes
did.
on this movie. So.
And my question is, did Zack Snyder know that? Like, he was watching Game of Thrones, he's like, I like that actor. And then like a season later, you're like, I like that actor too. Let's cast both of them in my movie.
If he does, I guarantee he
Mhm.
didn't know they were the same character. I take him as the kind of
Yeah.
guy who doesn't really understand who everybody is on Game of Thrones. And he's like, but I
Yeah.
really like it.
I like when
Yeah.
there's badass stuff happening.
Yeah, it's
there's-
cool.
Yeah.
The fights
Cool,
are
man.
cool.
Got a sword.
Yeah, her boobs are out and she's cutting heads off. It's cool. And you're
It's
like,
cool,
all right,
man.
yeah, I know, Zach.
And he
Yeah.
was at HBO. That's like Warner Brothers, right? So he's probably like,
Yeah.
"Hey guys, I'm doing this Netflix gig." You know,
Yeah.
something there.
But anyway,
Cornered
it's just a
Dan
very
Harmon
weird
at a
fact.
party and said, I want to direct the Rick and Morty movie. And Dan Harmon was like, oh, that's
Let him.
cool.
Let him.
I don't know.
The Rick and Morty live action movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
geez,
what he
Rick.
said. He said, I want to pitch that. I was like,
That would be
"No."
insane.
Yeah.
This is Back to the
Um,
Future, but weirder. But that is a fun fact, Jacob. The Game of
That's
Thrones.
a
Yeah.
fun fact, Doug.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm the only person that noticed this. I'm probably not, but it's just like I had to look at the cast list because I knew Ed Screen was the villain already because I had like read, like I'd seen the trailer and stuff, and I didn't realize this other guy, Michael Huisman, was in the movie until I started watching it. I'm like, that's the fucking guy. That's the same guy. So I had
He's
to mention
giving
that.
like Michael Wiesman he's giving like sort of Andor, but not quite there.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
he is a
energy.
cuck in this movie. He
Yeah,
does
yeah.
nothing
Well,
good. You keep calling him the Luke. I keep getting mad at that because he accomplishes nothing in this
No.
film.
No, he's like the Luke, but all the good parts of Luke were given to Korra, so they're kind of
Right.
split the character of Luke. He's just like the
Farm
innocent
boy.
townie, who
Yeah.
has to like be swept
He's
into this
the
larger
chief
world.
hunter of this village. Let's talk about this opening scene.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
space again. I want to emphasize the space. Is it
Mm-hmm.
farming? It's space farming. Now
right.
they're of course farming
Moisture farming?
wheat.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just moisture farming. It's the ones to one are so
Yeah.
incredible. But
Yeah.
the idea that he's like, no, they're just growing wheat. Like it's just wheat. Dude.
Space
it's
wheat,
just
yeah.
straw. And you're like,
Space
okay,
wheat, yeah.
I guess. So we see her tilling. We see the huge planet in the background. Michael Huisman comes up because there's going to be this big party in the village. They're celebrating a hunt went well. They're going to have meat for the first time. There's all these weird details, right, for this
Mhm.
tiny little world. And she's turning down his advances. And we're going to learn from her sort of adoptive father who's introduced her into this community. She is this outsider who has crash landed there, seeked refuge, sort of found this solace life, this small life as a farmer.
Mhm.
And death will be coming to them, this bigger world. But I just think, I don't know, this early stuff, the Viking stuff. I mean, we see Corey Stoll as their chieftain, right? He says, like, I'm the leader of this town, and like I'm appointed to give like a big speech, and my big speech is like, you all have to fuck to make the harvest good. Like, I want you to go home and like fuck each other's brains out. And
Yeah,
you're like,
right.
this is again, you're just thinking like, this is so Zack Snyder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
And they're
cool
just trying
and
to be
badass.
peaceful, space Vikings in their village, grow their wheat.
The whole planet grows wheat. That's it.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's only a moon, right? It's a rebel
True.
moon.
It's a moon. Yeah, we got. It's true.
But we find out, maybe they sold some of their wheat to the rebels earlier, but they try to stay out of the larger political thing. They just want to make enough money so that they can feed their village,
Right.
and continue to grow wheat. So then we get Admiral Noble. He lands on this planet. Now, this scene, in case you're wondering what this is borrowed from, reminded me a lot of the scene in Inglorious Bastards, right? Where what's his name, the Nazi guy,
Oh, yeah,
is
but
sort
that
of
opening scene in the farmhouse.
You got
right?
milk.
Yeah, and
No,
he's
we
sort of
just have wheat here.
interrogating the girl, and it's a very similar scene where he's like pretending to be nice, but then eventually he's a meanie, right? So
Mhm.
that's a lot
He's a
like this
meanie.
scene with the space Nazis that come down.
That's good to point out. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
references that he's pulling from. Yeah.
Yeah.
That we can remember.
And this is, we said they're called the Mother World or whatever. Now there's a lot of Dune. And then Mike, let me throw this to you, because I think I have no expertise on this. I hear a lot of Warhammer. Do you know anything about Warhammer? Is this sort of like 40K or whatever?
Personally, I haven't played a lot of
Kind of.
Warhammer, but so I don't know for sure. But
I think
I know there's big
aesthetically-
armadas in space and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Space
the Space Marines
soldiers.
are very
Space
like
Marines.
fascist coded. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like obviously the Empire was like fascist coded too. So that's like every
Yeah.
space opera has to have some fascist bad guys.
Mhm.
This movie is also, according to Zack Snyder, very much influenced by Heavy Metal magazine from the
Oh, sure.
1970s.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Okay.
And so so it's very influenced on that aesthetically.
It's pulp.
Yeah. Oh, bigly.
Yeah. So we have this scene where he's like interrogating Corey Stoll about the grain and stuff, and trying to find these rebels, the Blood Axe clan, right?
Mhm.
Darien Blood
We'll
Axe, of
take
course.
Great
90% of your grain. Oh, but we need it for our village. Well, we'll and then this other guy pipes in. We'll sell you maybe 50% of our grain. And then Ed Screen's like, oh, but he says you have more grain to sell me than you said. What do you have to say about that? Oh, well, that guy. I don't speak for that guy. There's just a lot of this. It's all circular going around. It's all going on for so long. I'm dying to grab.
Because we
my
know what
phone
the
at this
scene
moment.
is. It's
Yes.
just we're
Because
gonna
it's so
take all
because
your
you've seen
shit
it
and we'll come
1,000
back
times
later.
before, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's some kind of dispute between Corey Stoll and our guy Michael Huisman, where he wants to because he's the one who sold the grain to the rebels who they're looking for. So they're trying to hide the fact that they sold grain to these rebels, because then they're going to be associated with the rebels. but they want to, they want to just keep existing basically. But yeah, this scene goes on for way too long. Eventually,
1,000 years.
Coruscant gets beat to death with the shillelagh, the space shillelagh.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Just real quick, when Chorus sees the ship coming down, she runs in slow motion. This is, I believe, the first time we see slow motion to the center of the town, picks up a hammer, hits this big warning sign. Again, she's the outsider.
Again,
They
straight out
walk
of
up
Andor.
to her,
Yeah.
and they're like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, well, that's your system. They know that. It's like she's the one added to your site. She's not the one who should be doing these things.
Yeah.
Now we should talk about our protagonist here, Cora.
Yeah.
Played by Sophia Boutella.
Mm-hmm.
No wraps around her. She's not dusty at all.
She's not a mummy.
She's not a mummy, Jacob.
She's not an alien.
She's not an alien.
Not an alien. She's not looking for James T. Kirk.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like the screaming.
Sophia Boutella, I don't know what you guys think about her. I don't think she's like a great actress. She can do action, it seems like, and that's kind of why Zack Snyder picked her.
I
like
rewatched Atomic Blonde
woman.
recently.
I was going to ask.
She's fucking dope in Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, Atomic Blonde.
That's her best role.
Yeah, agree.
She obviously can do action. So I think Zack Snyder was just like, I'm going to get this attractive woman who is a badass to be my protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
She has no personality in this film. We know nothing about her the entire time. There's
Just
multiple
like one
times.
look.
Literally, yeah.
Well, she'll there will be scenes later we'll talk about where she'll say like, "You don't understand my tragic backstory." And by the third time she says that, we then see the flashback, which is what the opening thing that we should have seen over Anthony Hopkins describing the flashback. Like it doesn't make
need
any
the mystery
sense.
of who is this woman. Then later when her and
there's not
go
a
off.
second where I feel any mystery. I don't think she's the princess that they're talking about. Like I certainly don't think that.
She obviously doesn't fit in with these locals on this moon. But literally when the scene when her and Gunnar go off and they're sitting by the fire and she explains her backstory, she literally launches into this monologue. We see her whole backstory, and then the last thing she says is, "I'm only telling you this so that you'll know who I am." And like that's a literal line from the movie. I'm like,
Zack
really?
Snyder.
Okay.
And this is so at this point they're like, we need to go get the 7 samurai. So this is their first night kind of out of the village.
Yes.
Doing
first we have to mention
Cora goes,
so the fascist patrol shows up.
Cora wants to leave.
And even before that, she wants to leave. She's ready to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But these fascists show up to watch the wheat production or whatever, and they have a robot, and this is the Anthony Hopkins robot.
So in these episodes on YouTube, I put in the fourth window where Joe used to be when he was hosting the show, a random character, and it's already been done. And I knew it the second I saw him that it was going to be Robot Anthony Hopkins, and that is what the name says. I don't care what the character is called; it's Robot Anthony Hopkins.
Well,
his name is.
Well, I have an issue with his name. So I'll tell you exactly what his name is. His name is like JC47 or something, and these sort of like bad guy. I don't know what they're coded as. I guess they're all like New Zealanders who are part of like the grunt forces of the Nazis.
Battleship Troopers, Starship Troopers.
Literally, they are like Starship Troopers, and they say, "Blimey, my wimey, there's a Jimmy. That's a Jimmy. If I never seen one." And they use this.
Anthony Hopkins as the voice of Jimmy is what he's credited as.
You learn it's a racist or derogatory term for these robots, and that's the only character information we have out of him is like know him as Jimmy.
So these robots,
and he's also a big cuck.
Were loyal to the king of the mother world, or the home world, I guess, who was slain prior to this movie. So they refer to him as like the slain.
We set
king.
that up real quick.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't had it set up for us yet.
But essentially, what's important about these robots is they're loyal to the king who was killed before this movie started. Since he was killed, they have turned pacifist essentially and said
they have no leader.
They have no purpose.
And they will not fight. So they'll do manual labor and stuff for the Empire, but they will not shoot anyone or do violence.
They're essentially camo-colored crash test dummies.
Yeah. So this, and like they have to explain this with like terrible exposition where we have a Marine who randomly is just like, check this out. This thing won't fight back because you know why? Remember when the king died? He turned up like it's done so like inefficiently.
Explaining to another member of the troop that would
Who
probably
presumably
already know
knows
that.
this already
Yeah.
because they know what a Jimmy is.
He says, remember, it's that thing we know from like that war we were all in.
Yeah.
It's truly like the clunkiest thing ever. He tries to murder this thing that is doing the chores they are there to do, and then he has to
lifting
do
these heavy
the chore.
boxes.
Yeah.
And then literally right after that, they see this hot townie girl, and they're like, "Hey, let's like, take her into this barn." And this is where we get the scene of Cora, where she shows up with her hammer. Right? Is it a hammer?
Axe. It's an axe.
Axe. And then you think, and they're like, "Oh, I wonder what this girl's about to do." And of course, there's a big, scene where she kills them all, and it's great.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a lot of slow-mo.
Yeah, I'm going to complain about this scene a little bit
you
because
go.
she has the conversation with the Guardian figure who's like, you can't like leave us. Like, what are you going to do now? And she's like, I've seen what they do. We have to get out of here. And she sets up this great thing where it's like, what do they want? Everything. And then later the Michael Hussman's like, what do you plan to take? And the screen's like, everything, right?
Everything.
Yep.
And Cora's like, okay, I see this R is about to happen. Let me grab my axe. And she goes to do it. And she walks up to them. And then she puts her axe down and goes, hey, stop. And they all turn around and go, what?
Try to give him a chance,
And she goes,
Yeah.
hey, stop. And they go, no. And they all hold their guns up.
They all have
They
guns.
basically get her. Like one of them hits her. And then like she gets in like a very bad fight. What was the plan?
I think the
plan was
implication is that she can still fight them even when they all have guns because she's just so badass, which is kind of the same thing that happens in this Mos Eisley Cantina scene that we're going to get to in a minute.
To later, yeah. But I mean, there's some slow-mo, but the dude just walks up to her holding the gun on her, not shooting it in slow motion. It's like, this should not have unfolded the way it's presented to us. There's a way to execute it where it makes logical sense.
I think these
but-
troops are just dumb and they underestimated her because she's a woman or whatever. And
Yeah,
then
no, and
they all get
I
their
also,
ass beat.
exactly. But I also want to point out, like, this is where I don't like Snyder's stuff because sometimes it's just too much. Like, he has this show, like, you really got to hate these guys, and he makes them like so fucking cookie cutter evil, but then pushes it like almost too far. It's like to where it's kind of gross now, and it's like, Zach, like just a little bit. And this isn't the first one we're going to deal with. It's like, Zach.
No.
Well, she was about to leave that village, and then she heard that other woman screaming, basically, and then decided to save her from
No, that's
being
fine.
assaulted.
But yeah, that encounter and how grimy all the Marines are about it. It's like, it's just like, I get it. They're bad guys, but like, I'm kind of grossed out, dude.
And then she comes back and says, you need to fight. And what changed for her? I mean, she knows that these people do this bad stuff.
Right. She was literally just ready to leave the village and let them suffer at the hands of the Empire, right? So
that was her refusing the call to action. It's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It's beat for beat, Mike.
Yeah.
For what is a 1/3 film, it somehow goes through the entire Campbellian story circle. So you can't even imagine how they're just going to keep doing it.
It's either that or one movie of crossing the threshold, depending on how you read it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I don't even consider this a whole movie because
We haven't even begun the journey.
Like we talked about part ones and part two. Sometimes the part one isn't a full movie, and I think that definitely qualifies for this movie, which is essentially the first act of a story. But yeah, it's the hero's journey meets the Seven Samurai archetype of rounding up a bunch of heroes or warriors. Even though the Seven Samurai archetype is generally they're not actual heroes, like they're pretending to be heroes, but they're really like circus performers or whatever.
Well, in the real Seven Samurai, they're just a variety of samurai with different skills. Some of them are like more reluctant or like whatever, but
this
In
whole
between
A Bug's Life
Magnificent
is circus.
Seven, yeah.
Well, I was
Bug's
about to
Life.
say, between A Bug's Life and Magnificent Seven, should we just say what is our favorite Seven Samurai actual
Derivative?
adaptation that isn't this film?
Probably this film for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think A Bug's Life.
No, Bug's Life is a great example, but they're like fake heroes because they're pretending to be heroes, but really they're just bug circus or
They
whatever.
give them the confidence themselves. They're not a
Yeah.
badass group of outlaws that's literally just an Irish guy going, what, did you hear about this one guy on this one planet? We could go ask him what he's up to. And you're like, okay.
Well,
sounds-
but you see,
like,
when
literally,
you get to the twist, it all makes sense why he's rounding up all these
Sure.
people.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Literally, the leaving moment here is her going like, do you remember how to meet those blood axes? And he's like, not really. And they go like, well, do you kind of remember how to beat someone else? And he goes, yeah, I kind of remember how to beat someone else.
Literally,
He's like,
like a
that's good
video
enough.
game, Colin.
Yep.
Like a video game, they give her 2 tasks. They say we need to meet the rebels and find this mysterious General Titus.
Mhm.
And you can
Or
do
I
them in
will
any
remember
order,
that.
but we would recommend this one first. Yeah,
Yeah.
video game ass movie. Yeah.
Right.
So they go to find these rebels, and this is where we get. So basically, they're going to meet with the guy that Gunnar sold the wheat to, who has a connection to the rebels.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to this fucking
We're out of
cantina.
luck. Why? Because my contact right there is being arrested.
Yeah,
That's
they're
the energy.
foreshadowing those devices that they get put in, which we'll see later.
Oh yeah, I guess
And
so.
they're demonstrating how they work, where you can put the
here's an
drill into
interesting
the back
thing.
of the thing. Yeah,
Real quick, because this is the Jimmy as well, and again, I don't like that term. And then the chair torture device as well. All robots are boxes that transform into robots.
That's
That's
a
an interesting
Roblox.
concept.
Interesting.
That is some Roblox, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some Minecraft ass shit.
There's some
Yeah.
interesting stuff here, like that weird spider thing. Like, there's some cool design ideas. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
and we
the
see
spider.
this thing that essentially puts you in this device so that you can't escape, and then their method of execution is they have these like hand drills that they can put into this slot in the back that will like shoot a thing into your spine that like immediately kills you or whatever.
It's basically the No Country for Old Men cow killing thing, just
Yes.
bigger and more badass.
They have this whole device just to kill people humanely, I guess. I don't know why, but
No, you
that's
got
what
it.
Too
happens
many.
here.
So far, not too many aliens, considering we were on an alien planet. But I will shout out, I did watch this with subtitles on, and in the moment before they leave the planet, when the chieftains are like, "Well, if you're taking Michael Hussman with you, we'll need 2 Garlacs. Fetch a Garlac for her too as well." And moments before that, on screen, it said like Garlac Winnies or something. So I knew that the Garlacs were the
I love
horses that they
Garlacs.
ride or whatever. I was like, "That's great. Good for you guys."
Yep. Fantastic.
So they go to this cantina, right?
Then this is planet
Yeah.
is Space Asia, right? Like
Yeah.
that's basically what this planet is,
It's Space
design-wise,
Asia.
architecture-wise.
Neon World, yeah.
Neon
No,
World.
that's later. This
Cyberpunk.
cantina.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
It's like
Again,
very
if you've
old school
seen,
feudal Japan
If
architecture.
you've seen Firefly, it feels very reminiscent of that, where it's like Asian/Western influence, where it's like a melding
Doma.
of like East-West kind of thing.
And you call
Um,
it Gelt. Gelt is Viking.
Velt is the moon that they're on.
Velt.
Yeah.
Velt is a Viking farm.
Yes.
Medieval
Mhm.
farm, basically.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's a
this whole
Norseman.
Western with Asian influences, space Western, it's been done a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
Like Firefly, Cowboy Bebop, a million
Ahsoka
others.
season 1.
Yeah,
They do Yojimbo, literally, sort of like this similar
sure,
look.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they go to this cantina, of course. And of course we get a scene that may be reminiscent of another movie that you might have heard of called Star Wars.
What about it?
What about this is like that scene? Yeah, oh my
Prove it.
god.
This
Prove
is
it.
like, it's exactly like that scene, except if the alien comes up, starts bothering him and says, "Hey, this guy, he's pretty like good looking or whatever. How much is he?" And then they're like, "Well, he's not for sale," to the Michael Huisman character.
Yes, Gunner.
Essentially, he insinuates that he's going to take him upstairs and have his way with this guy.
Yeah. Not a great looking alien here. This is character actor Dominic Burgess, who I like a lot. So I was very surprised to see him here being like, "Your boy, I want to taste your boy."
He's so gross about it.
I mean, it's like, again, you're just like, you used to imagine Zach on set's like, you can't be too over the top. Like, he's probably saying that to everybody, right?
Again,
You're
this
like,
is the
Zach,
second
yes, you
attempted
can.
rape scene in the first
20 minutes.
half hour of this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like he like grabs his dick, like full on close up shot,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Zach, let's chill. Yeah.
So of course Korra is essentially the Obi-Wan. He is the Luke. Gunnar is the Luke. And then we're about to meet our Han Solo. Well,
Correct.
we've already seen him. He's Charlie Hunnam with like a little man bun. And we love him, folks. We absolutely love him.
His planet was near the Son of Anarchy, I think, where he's from.
That's right, and he's space Irish, I believe. As
He is
mentioned
space
earlier.
Irish.
For sure.
Yeah. So obviously, Korra gets in a fight with this guy, and basically, lets him go and he runs away, but then he comes back later with a bunch of other people.
Because
with
we need to draw
guns.
this out. We can't just have the whole
Yeah.
bar fight now, you know.
I've got
No.
one question for you, Cora. Have you seen Peaky Blinders?
Well, we meet meet one cool alien design in this scene of like the guy that is like communicating through this alien.
Oh,
That is
alien
cool.
Communicating through the guy that's like sucking his life
Yes.
force out or something.
So this bar, everybody's like high on what you assume is like, again, let's just put space in front of
drugs, yeah.
opium.
Yeah,
It's
space
just like
opium.
everybody's getting that. But one of the things, or maybe the thing they're doing drugs out of, or that like creates the drug they're doing, is like this leech that's like, you're probably here for the blood X clam. And you're like, oh shit.
He's like plugged into this dude who's cracked
It's
out, talking
awesome.
through the guy. It was pretty
he's
kinda
talking
neat.
through this human as an alien.
Maybe my favorite part of the movie. So thank you for remembering
That was good. There's a couple of creature designs that were cool in this movie. That's like
there's a
first one.
kind of like a fish rabbit guy that we'll see later who begs for his life that I was like, this is pretty cool.
yeah.
But none of them
He was
join
a
our
very
crew. We get
prequel looking.
pretty much
Yes.
humanoids, but
Yes. Well, I would
pretty
say
much
Men in
humanoids.
Black, Jacob. A lot of these characters look like Men in Black aliens.
yeah, actually, that's a good call.
But yeah, this
Fight
guy comes
scene.
back with a bunch of guns. There's a big fight scene where Cora again is going to take on a bunch of people by herself who all have guns, and she pretty much beats them all except she's about to get shot by this dude. And then who do we have? We have Space Charlie Hunnam. Helps her out, saves the day.
Super slow motion though, because she's like, "Is he gonna shoot me? Is he a good guy?
Yeah.
Of course, he's gonna save her." You know, but,
And he basically says, I know why you're here. I've got a ship.
I have a ship.
Let's get on my
Beat
ship.
the Kessel
I know.
Run in 10 parsecs.
Every person you would want to meet. I did the Kessel Run, as Jacob explained. So we're probably, so what do we have here? There's 3 of us. I'm probably thinking of, let's see, how many samurai were there? There 1, 2. You know what? I'm thinking, what if we got 7 more of us? Does that sound good? Or 7 total?
get it up to 7. Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it. You're right.
that's all we need.
And essentially from here, we should say most of this movie, as we're about to see, is literally them going from one character to the next, meeting them, saying, "What's your thing?" Have a little scene to show what their scene is.
Can I do it for you real quick? It's literally Michael Hussman and Sofia Boutella talk a little bit and get a little bit closer. And Charlie Hunnam walks in and he goes, "But have you ever heard of General Titus? Or have you ever heard of this?" He'll just say the name of the person. They'll go, "No." And he goes, "We're headed there now. Go there. See them do the thing." And they go, "Are you in?" I mean, it's literally that Rick and Morty, "Are you in? Hell yeah, I'm in" meme. Where it's like,
son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in. Where it's literally like, you had me at just appearing before me and asking me a question.
Right, and there's never,
yeah,
there's never any. It's literally establishing shot. We're already near that character. We don't have to like look around for them. There's never like any exploration. It's just we're here. We're talking to them. They do their thing.
They're going
and
to
we leave.
one point from another, and first they show up for this guy who's like a slave. Who Charlie Hunnam was like, "I know this guy. Look, I heard what you guys were talking about, your cause and things. You need like rebels and fighters and stuff. I know this fucking guy. He's a slave. We can go like buy his freedom and he'll join your cause." Because that's the first place we go, right? Is this guy
with Buck
Tarek. Yeah, we get a space hippogriff.
They land at an alien pawn shop and they're like, "This is the guy," and they're like, "No, he's the guy we're buying him from." And they turn, and it's basically the most beautiful Greek man you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea who this actor is. Or
this guy was in Game of Thrones too.
Who is incredible?
He played one of the Dothraki who kind of worked for
Daenerys, I do remember that
in the later seasons, I think. So he was kind of when she was over in
crossed
Westeros.
the Great Grass Sea. You know, you owe us. Okay, yeah.
So he was there. But he essentially, we hear from his backstory that he was like a warrior prince or something that like was sold into slavery.
Do we hear that now? Because I believe he truly is just a blacksmith going like, "Oh, you don't, my story? Some say it's too sad to hear." And then basically the guy who owns the pawn shop goes, "It's not even enough that you would try to buy him. Basically, I'll only let him leave if he does some really cool shit to an animal." And the guy's like, "You got me." And then, but I want to point this out because up until the ending scene where they're all strung up and the bad guy goes, "Ah, Prince Nefofu, and of course you're here too." I had
Yeah.
no fucking clue
Yeah.
who he was, that he was a prince, what his deal was. I don't think we did know.
Right, but I wanted, and also pointing out, because I'm not sure when, but I guess we do learn that eventually. Whenever people join the crew, that's it. They just stand in the background for the rest of the movie. Like,
Mike, you will never
Normally-
see them again. They will
No.
contribute nothing to anything else.
Normally, you would have some.
They won't have a
scenes of them
conversation.
bonding on the ship, getting to know each other, kind of learning
lot
their
of
individual
times,
personalities.
What a good screenwriter will do is
Yeah.
the next person they go to, they will utilize the skills of the first person they recruited to be like, you're the only one who can help us get to this person. We've all seen Ocean's 11. I mean, a film where they just go down the line to go like, well, we need a person who does this, and then it is practically introduced that they do that thing, and then you see
And
them.
it's literally a
that
montage instead
thing.
of the whole movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's probably going to be in the giant director's cut. I bet it's all there. But yeah, there's no time spent on the ship like in Star Wars. Like you're in the
No,
Millennium
there's
Falcon
no-
getting used to it, like learning its personality.
Yeah.
This thing is just a generic
There's
freighter.
no connective tissue in this movie. It's all just these scenes put together. And that's why, like I said, it feels like a video game because it reminds me so much of Mass Effect, where you're going, that's a game where it's very heavily companion based, where you're doing missions with one companion, you do their story mission, you go to this planet, you do whatever quest they need to do, then you come back, you go out with another companion, you go to their home world, do whatever quest they need to do. That's what this movie feels like.
To complement those games real quick, Jacob, when I play a Mass Effect or a game like that, where you do missions sometimes, and by the end of it, or like Persona 2, or something like that, where you like, by the end of it, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that this was a character that would be joining my team. That's so interesting. We've seen each other earlier. We've seen each other later. Maybe we've seen each other barely at all, and they're being forced on. Like, there's interesting depth to it. Whereas this has none of that. There is no complexity. There is no, it is literally just like, it's like that old animation in Scooby-Doo where there'd be like, well, one of these books might open a secret passage. And the one book is like animated like incredibly beautifully because it has to move in the cell frame. Like they walk into these places and they say to that guy, like, are you who we're here for? And then they turn and like I said, you see generic, beautiful human. Like, because to Zack Snyder, it's like, well, no. The person who's going to join their team is going to be a guy who's in 300. Like he's going to be like a Greek.
Well, they're
god.
all archetypes of like these badass characters, but it's like the the gladiator, the samurai lady, the whatever. But
the Irish guy.
Yeah,
the Irishman,
but let me
as
remind you.
Scorsese
So
would put it.
originally, they wanted to find General Titus, who's this general that Cora kind of knows vaguely about, and they wanted to find the Blood Axe clan, which is this rebel clan that the Empire is looking for. So that's what their two objectives were to begin with. Then they meet Kai, who says, I know this guy, Tarek, who they go and get. And then after this space hippogriff scene, they're like, Cora basically turns to Kai and is like, hey, that guy's pretty cool. Do you know anyone else that we can pick up like this?
Who else? That was a great idea.
I know a few people.
Oh, well, now that I've got you. And I just want to point out one last time. When he jumps to this hippogriff thing, which is directly from Harry Potter, we're ripping it.
It's also Star Wars Episode 1.
Literally, that you have to bow
you have to
them
win a
and
bet
show
that's
them
dangerous.
honor.
Yes.
Yeah. So first we have this guy who's like, listen, I'll let him go if he can tame this beast, but if he doesn't,
Why would you
then
do
you're
that?
all my slaves.
Just like
But
Episode
that's
1.
insane.
And he's gross like Watto.
He does a Watto moment. You're
Yes,
exactly
he's very
right. But
Watto.
the jump, what I want to point out is it is the Michael Fassbender from 300 shot. It is the then we will fight in the shade leap with the spear. Like he does the leap through the air slow motion profile shot. That is the exact shot he did several years ago. It's insane recycling work, Zach. To pull from your own work is incredible.
Yes, yes.
And then we get an Avatar 1 scene of him trying to tame this thing flying around. Just like Jake Sully on his bird thing.
And again, literally the hippogriff thing.
Yes.
It's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is that you had to bow to them and show them respect to get them to respect you. And that's literally what he does in this. The reason, because it's like ferocious and stuff, but if you just show it respect, it'll calm down and it'll like you. And then he rides it. There's a scene of him riding around, blah, blah, blah. He comes back. He's like, all right, she's all yours. And then they peace out. And as they're leaving, this guy, thinking that this beast is tamed or whatever, tries to ride it and then basically gets killed by it. So,
because it's badass.
But does it come up onto their ship? Because doesn't he ride it later?
Nope.
No, that's the last we see of it.
They just leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Its
made
arc
friends with this
concluded with
animal,
killing the slave master. That was it
But
for
it
the hippogriff.
seems like he's empathetic and can maybe tame any animal, this guy.
He's
maybe
like the
that's this
Beastmaster, I
guy's
guess. I think that's his
superpower.
thing.
He is the Dar of their crew, Mike.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's his
Kodo
power.
and Podo.
He's a beast tamer. Then they go and meet Nemesis.
Oh,
now this
man.
character is even
Character,
less
right,
fleshed
probably.
out.
So
than-
this is Cyberpunk's planet now, yeah?
Yeah.
How dare you? This character, we at least like. She has like a thing that she's. I have no idea why
Yeah.
she joins their crew or what she will gain further, but she
No.
has. It's very active what she is doing when
Well, yeah.
she's introduced.
She's
Right.
a samurai. She's hired to fight this spider lady. Hashtag Doctor Who.
Hashtag Dark Souls.
And she does the wiggling in
constantly
place like I
moving.
am
Yeah.
a spider.
Oh, wow. And it's also Quelaag from Dark Soul.
It's Jenna
Right.
Malone, who is an actress. I just saw her in all the Hunger Games. What a
Yes.
fall in my mind that
Can I-
she would be doing this.
And I like the actress for Samurai Lady, who plays Nemesis, Bae Doona. She's like done,
Bae Doona.
you know, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. She
So
did
here's
like
Nemesis.
Sense8 and this
She's-
and that, whatever.
Oh, I did not realize that. That is dope. She's part
She's
of
like
a
a mother
cult of
who-
warrior.
Yeah.
Lost her children, took up this vow, chopped her arms off, put these robot arms on again, and wields. These are
Wait,
the
she
lightsabers.
chopped her arms off? I don't even
Mhm.
Yeah,
remember
She has
she-
robot
yeah.
hands.
They
I
can.
did
Those
not
blades
even-
are so hot, and the whole thing's burned that only robot hands can grab them.
Oh.
Which is, this is another
Not
one of the cool
lightsabers
things.
At all. Yeah.
No, but I
Well-
like the idea that they're metal swords and they just heat up so much that they're red hot and they can kind of melt through things. Like that's a cool idea. It's visually
Right.
interesting. He wanted lightsabers, but I think that's
And I
not
do
bad.
like, again, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is this scene. I like the Spider Woman design. Again, like you said, Jenna Malone, who's just in this one scene. But there's kind of a
Started Sucker
pathos
Punch,
there
point
where
that
it's like, what? Oh yeah. Where after she's hired to kill this spider lady who's threatening this child because basically the miners on this planet came and overtook this area and said, we're mining here, but the Spider Woman was like, you killed all my children and stuff. I'm really mad about that.
Now I can't have children.
My babies.
Yeah, it's
So-
industrialism versus nature.
Yeah.
But,
oh man. But
and I like
she
the
has to
scene
monologue
because
it.
yeah, I like the scene because after she kills this spider lady, she's like, there was no honor in that. Like basically, she feels bad because as a mother who also lost her child, she feels bad for this spider lady.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight she was saying to the spider lady, like, look, you're just doing this out of revenge. Like, revenge is not good for anybody, right? Start by digging two graves thing. Like, revenge
Yeah.
shouldn't be a motivator. That's why she's like, I don't like that I did this. Like, I don't, So she's
No.
very anti-revenge being a motivator. I'm going to say that now because
Yeah.
it's important
Yeah,
later.
but
And
Mike,
so
I'll point this out. Her name is Nemesis.
her name is Nemesis. Yeah.
Which this gives me Star Trek Nemesis vibes too, with all the wires and the way the spider lady looked. And can I?
Yeah.
Yes.
I watched this with subtitles. Did you guys too?
Yes, of course.
What is
Yeah.
the spider called?
Oh, I don't know. off
The
top of
spider
my
is named Harmada.
Armada.
A Harmada.
It's like
Harmada,
harming. It's
Harmada.
harming people. Do you get it? Harmada.
Yes.
But this-
She's
anyway.
the Nemesis.
Yes.
Yeah, but I will say this is like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
This is one of the better, well executed action scenes. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Because there's actually something there
Can
to
I
it.
say this, Jacob?
Yeah.
I think this is a better plot for a movie. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever this woman's doing, and if it was just a whole movie of her tracking down like a cool spider monster that stole a kid, and the
Yeah, if
twist
she
is
wasn't
that
the only
my eggs can't hatch, and it's that whole kid drama, like you said, and that whole
Yeah.
thing about like
Totally.
there's no honor at the end. Sounds
if,
good
it,
to me. It's
if
great.
that story wasn't only contained to this one scene and then never brought up again, and that character doesn't do anything for the rest of the movie,
It's like,
Yeah.
Truly, can I say that it ends with them seeing her do this and being like, "Whoa! I heard that like people like her are like pretty cool," and they're like, "Yeah, they are. We should like go talk to her." And they're like, "Okay." And then, like
Mhm.
we've said, like you kind of never see her again, but she is part of their
she's
crew.
just in
Like
the
it's
background. Yeah.
insane. What?
And
But
they're
what
on to the
does
next
she
thing.
benefit for them to be like, "Hey,
what's in it
so
for her?
do you know about the motherland or whatever it's called?" And she's like,
Because
"Of
she's
course
just
I do."
generically into, fighting for rebels. So she's like, oh, sounds like a good cause, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'll join up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's never that conversation. Even
Like I said,
with
it's
the
not
first
fleshed
guy.
out. Yeah.
No, he literally says, "I don't know why you're here, but if you want me to do something for the mother world, I fucking hate them." And just so you know, I'm on the
Yeah.
rebel side already. Yeah,
They all hate the mother world.
just to make that clear. But yeah, so goodbye that plot line, and welcome to the crew. We'll see you in the third act for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And again, this movie just feels like the first half of a movie that then has a very anticlimactic climax at the end. And there's a twist, which we'll get to.
It's the first third, but yeah, maybe this is a
yeah.
good place to take a little break and come back as we get the rest of the crew right after this
Yeah.
on Normies Like Us.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we're talking Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Child of Fire, Part 1.
That's
we
right.
are
Standard
still
cut.
assembling the crew.
Like it should be a
That's
montage,
right.
but it's
I mean, it's
not.
just the whole
It's the
movie.
whole
It's
movie.
the
It's
plot
the
of the
whole
film.
movie.
This whole movie
Makes
is a
sense we're
session
not
0
done
of
yet.
D&D. What's your character's backstory? What's
Yeah.
your character? Oh, so she's the sword lady. She fights.
But Mike, I was thinking about this because there really is no shame about it. But Mike, if someone came to your session and was like, "My character's name is Blood Axe," wouldn't you be like, "Let's work a little harder on that. Like, let's develop this character a little more." Like, you wouldn't shame them, but you'd be like,
she's like really edgy and her name's Nemesis, right? She's like really cool. It's like, okay, man, I guess so.
Yeah. She has robot hands. She can use the Force. When you're introduced to her, she's cutting off the head of a badass Spider-Woman. She's explaining that she lost her children as well, and that because the Spider-Woman's eggs can't spawn, that actually it's okay that she didn't take this kid. And Nemesis says that there is no honor in that. Oh, hi, nice to meet you guys. I roll a check for charisma. You're like, oh my God.
Hold on.
Yeah.
But remember, she says,
what was all that?
Yeah. But where do we go
You
next?
think we're exaggerating, but this movie really, it's like the whole movie is getting the gang together. And then, Colin, you sent the trailer for the second part 2 in our chat today, and I watched it and I thought, well, this is where the movie actually starts. It seems like they're defending the town or whatever.
Can I say I was shocked that the blonde town woman seems to be a much beefier part in the second one.
Sure,
there seems to be a lot of stuff in the second where I'm like, well, I don't want any of this.
She's the Zendaya where you're like, oh, get ready for Dune Part 2. It's got a lot more Zendaya in it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We're on to the next recruitment.
This space Rome.
This is them
the
saying we
space
know where
gladiators.
General Titus is. Yeah.
And so General Titus, Jimon Hansu, who one of the top billed actors in this movie, and I kept thinking, when is this fucking guy gonna show up? Where's Jimon Hansu? He shows up barely in this movie, right? They keep talking about this former general who turned his own forces on the king or whatever, and then went and fucked off and became a gladiator.
And he doesn't even get to do his thing. They find him covered in mud and they wash him and he joins.
And they're like, do you hate the Empire? Yeah, we do too. All right.
But and here's the distinction. So in the previous scene, Beta Na's character, Nemesis, is saying, revenge is not a good motivator. We shouldn't do it. And then Korra is literally saying to this general, if you won't do it for your old troops, what about for revenge? And that's when he's like, yes, that works for me. It's like,
Watch
guys.
me.
I thought we said revenge is not a good motivator.
He's playing his character from Stargate. That's interesting.
Yeah.
He's getting the that's for the smell water bucket scene from Pirates.
Yeah.
Well, he's playing Mr. Schmee. He is that character.
Yeah.
Or whatever that guy's name is.
He's all muddy. He's getting cleaned, and then he doesn't do anything cool, really. He just kind of joins up.
We don't go in the Coliseum. We don't see epic fight. Literally, they're like, where is the Great Warrior? And they're like, you mean the piece of shit is taking a fucking shit in the corner?
This drunk
and they're like,
guy over here.
Homeless guy. Yeah. It was like, oh, I'm so sick. Help me. It's so
on to the next
sad.
thing.
Yeah. So that's quick.
We
No more
didn't even
space Rome.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. So we mentioned that Korra, our protagonist, her mysterious backstory is explained in that she was actually, her name is Arthaleus, and she
didn't know that.
I did know that. Of course, Arthaleus, who was basically this guy who's like a general.
No, can I say it? She's Gamora.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, she's Gamora. This Balsalarius, who's like her adoptive father,
Belisarius.
That's what I said. Was it
Belisarius?
Belisarius?
Belisarius.
Yeah,
Belarus.
whatever.
Belisarius, who has
Yeah.
made himself the new
He's
emperor
this
of
very
the mother world. Yes.
bloodthirsty commander when we first meet him, right? And he loves to lead his troops and slaughter people and do all this stuff. He kills Korra's whole family but is moved by her heroism and bravery, so he adopts her as his own daughter,
Because she
raises her to be a warrior in the fascist army or the home
He was
world.
the last of her kind, right? I mean, he destroyed everyone else. It's literally the Gamora Thanos thing.
Yes, seems
Right.
like it.
But more
Yes.
badass because she has a gun and then he like has her go ahead and do it, and she pulls the trigger and the gun misfires and he's like, I respect you now.
But
And it's really
That's
badass.
true.
See, I didn't understand that.
That's
like,
a great
unloaded. He somehow
might have died.
unloaded her
What
gun.
does that teach you? But I also want to give Jacob
Yeah.
praise because I do want to point out you said that thing about him being on the battlefield. That is, of course, because she does say this quote of like, and he doesn't just fight in the room with the politicians at the Senate.
Yeah.
No, he
He likes
fights
to lead his troops
on
and
the
kill
field.
people.
Yeah.
And I was
You're
like, that's
oh
kind
my
of
God.
badass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
see
so cool.
the
Yeah.
king in flashbacks is played by Carrie Elways for some reason.
Shocking. This is
Yeah.
where I was truly shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's barely in it. Like he died before this movie started, right? But we
I
see kind of
guess.
and it's kind of like a Hunger Games thing, I guess, where the homeworld is like all these rich fucks and then everyone else is really
Here's
poor.
Jacob, I'll remind you, here's what Jimmy told us at the start of the film. He said that there was 1,000 years of violence where the homeworld conquered their own planet and then they moved their conquering forces into space, conquering
Right.
every inch around them until one day Princess blah 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 was born and
That's
she
right.
had the power of life.
She
And
could bring
taking it
birds
as a
back to
sign,
life. Yeah.
her little tears, she would go and she would heal things or heal people.
I forgot
And
that happened.
The king,
movie.
Carrie always says, this is a sign, this is a prophecy, life means renewal, we will stop killing. And
Yeah.
Regent Belisarius goes, but I love killing. So he kills the king and says, I'm
That's
in
right.
charge. Everyone goes like, well, by the laws of our world, which appears to have a senate and yet still a king, if you do kill the king, you do become the regent or whatever his title is. So
Yeah. And
That's right. And-
remember to open this film in the opening crawl, they do say a senator turned evil and took over. It's like, this is Star
Yeah,
Wars. Stop
his
it.
name was
Can I
Sheev
say,
Palpatine.
Mike, the
Yeah.
beauty of the crawl and why it stays with you is you're looking at the words and you're being filled with these heady ideas that you don't understand, but you're looking at the words and going like, okay, I'm seeing that Rebel Alliance, Force, Jedi Order are things I am going to have to zone in on.
Yeah,
Let me store those
Homeworld,
away subtly.
Space Vikings.
Jacob, I would argue the difference
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
hearing Jimmy Hopkins go like, the thing about Mother World is, while a giant penis shoots through a space vagina at me, is that I get a
Incredible.
little wrapped up with looking
Yeah.
at the space penis and not
Sure.
listening to the words being said.
Yeah.
I know
there's a
you can't
disconnect.
beat for beat steal the crawl, but you have to do something to the equivalent to get your audience to understand your world, not
least
just
show what you're
dumb
describing.
shit.
And
Yeah.
to me, again, it's like when I tried to watch the cutscenes of the video game Destiny, where you had Peter Dinklage saying, and that wizard lived on the moon. And you're like, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That wizard lived on the moon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really
Wow.
Very
bizarre.
efficient.
Yeah.
So what's next? The
But I forgot about that princess character entirely. So I guess she'll be important in the
important.
second part.
But
Yeah.
can I give you guys my theory? Because
Yeah.
in this film, we learned that this is Korra's tragic backstory, that she was raised to do this. They were also told, because again, sex is a very powerful thing in Zack Snyder's universe. It's not just that the Norse people are like, we need to fuck to
Mhm.
make the harvest happen.
Yeah.
Regent Belisarius says, in military school, find a lover so that you have something to fight for beyond yourself. That is how the mother world conquers more things.
Well, yeah, they're like a
Lover
trad
dies.
fascist society. So they're trying
Yes.
to promote traditional families or whatever.
Oh, geez.
Have
Jeez,
as
you're
many
right.
kids as you can.
Yeah.
It's all about, yeah, you're right.
As long as they're in the
and
military and follow our shit. Yep.
She loses her lover. That is sort of what sparks her to leave. But she keeps saying
Right.
she has this other tragic backstory too.
Oh yeah.
And there is this evidence that the Regent Belisarius says, "Bring her back to me. The scar give her. I want her brought back alive." She has this title. She's the most wanted person in the galaxy. We will find out. My
Right.
belief and thought is the guilt she is carrying is she was the one asked to execute the kid she was the bodyguard of. He
Oh,
killed this
damn.
princess of prophecy. That's what we'll learn in the next movie.
That
But
makes- that's a
I
good
feel like the
buy.
princess is maybe still alive and is going to become
Or
a character in
hidden?
part 2.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe.
that's
She's the
her big
Princess
secret.
Irulan.
But Zack
of,
Snyder would do the.
Saved her.
The
You had to
Florence
kill her,
Pugh
though.
role in Dune. Princess Irulan is going to become important in Dune Part 2.
Yeah, yeah. So
Who knows? But we'll find out when we watch all together. We watch
We're not going
Part
to do
2,
it.
The
It's
Scar
not going to
Giver.
happen.
sheesh.
Not going to happen.
So we meet General Titus. We move on. Now we finally meet up with these fucking rebels, Clan Blood Axe, where we have Darian and Devra Blood Axe.
Jeez, the
I knew
Durasses.
that. Yeah. And this is Ray Fisher, Cyborg from the Snyder Cut, of course.
Yeah,
Mhm.
wild.
Justice League. Ray Fisher famously hates everyone at DC, Joss Whedon, all those people, except
Mhm.
Zack Snyder, who he loves. He was very
Yes.
much on the pro Snyder side when that all fell out.
I
More than
heard
any other
ZS.
actor was like very on social media, very loud about it, saying DC fucked us over. They fucked Zack Snyder over. They were, Joss Whedon's like racist and all this stuff about on set, which I believe it. So he was kind of, I don't know if he's been blacklisted by Warner Brothers, but I would assume just because of his outspokenness on social media that he's not getting jobs that he maybe could have. But Zack Snyder's like, hey, come be in my space epic Rebel Moon.
And Cyborg, like his plot line was what was largely restored in the Snyder Cut, and he became like the main character almost. Like he got the most shit cut in the Whedon Cut, so I think it's founded.
Yeah.
But this is a scene we've seen before. Join us. No, it's too dangerous. He can't win. I think I want to join you anyway. Who will stand with me? No one. One person steps forward. A couple more people step forward. Great.
That's right. And this is where we meet the they, them pronouns person who is his second in command, basically.
Yeah.
Who seems
they're
like
the first one to step up,
going to
right?
become a more important, and they're going to become a more important character because as we find out, Darian Blood Axe dies in this final climax of this movie. So I feel like
everyone was very sad.
Take his place, yeah,
because we were really connected to that character.
Yeah, instead Ray
I knew so much about him. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that scene, but Ray Fisher's sister survives instead. This is Cleopatra Coleman, who's an actress I just know from that Last Man on Earth, and I liked her a lot on that, but don't really know her from a lot else.
And she's basically like, why are we joining this why are we going to fight for this random village? We got more important thing to do as a rebellion. And then he's like, no, we need to do this. And they kind of
one village sets the domino that will free the galaxy. There's a lot of like that talk to
the
sort of
spark that'll light the flame of the rebellion. Star Wars.
Again,
it's like this show called Andor that you might have heard of. Yeah.
But again, having not seen that, since I primarily see it as stealing so much from A New Hope, where they do successfully set up so much that it's like, we're not overthrowing the government. There's just a world-ending threat. Like, we realize there's this thing that's going to like blow up planets that we need to get rid of. And you're like, oh, okay. And it gives you an attainable goal. They truly keep
like
saying like,
here.
well, there is
there's
in
no
that
Death
they
Star,
keep saying, but there is in that they literally just keep saying, we're going to assemble 7 people to go home to our planet where with sticks and stones, they will teach us how to fight spaceships. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you just keep going like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Like, literally 7. They get a couple soldiers here, but you're just like, so there could be 40, 80 of you against 10,000?
Yeah.
20,000?
You keep saying it's a whole... Yeah, but you keep saying it's the conquering force of the galaxy. Like, again, you need to say something as far as like, but this is, these are the ones who have come through, and we're going to meet up with a larger rebel alliance. Like, that is the genius of Star Wars. The larger rebel alliance of this is like, we're Clan Blood Axe, we have a car. You're like, oh, okay.
We have a couple of troops. It's very, it's not a very well thought out world. So I don't really understand the stakes. It just seems to be that they want to protect this one village, which is going to spark some kind of larger rebellion against the home world.
look, there's some slow-mo shots that I really want to get of this village battle. We just need to get there as fast as or slowly as possible.
But we finally have, so we have all the troops assembled, right? They're all on Kai's ship, Kai Solo.
Nice.
And they finally, so what happens then? I'm trying to remember
Why
exactly.
did he not have a cool alien sidekick like Chewbacca, Jacob?
You know what? He really should have.
Why not give him something like that to like make any of this crew interesting? Instead, to literally just make them, we're all humanoids. We're all basically as generic as you can possibly imagine. Now, handsome Prince hasn't spoken for 50 minutes. You want to come up and remind everyone what your name is? Like, you almost want them to do that to each other.
Yeah. If you're gonna steal, like, give us a dinner scene from Alien. Like, get the crew hang. They're never interacting.
We should have some kind
Give
of
us the dishwashing scene from the fucking Hobbit movie, Mike. Give me like fucking that. Let them sit down and talk to each other.
But this is what I mean, because they're all getting the gang together, and then immediately the climax is like this feels like the climax of the second movie, but they need some kind of climactic thing in this movie. So they're like, okay, Admiral Noble will find them all. Well, then the big twist, which I'll reveal now, is essentially
it's a twist. Stop.
It's a twist. Kai, the Han Solo, who's been rounding up all these people this whole time, he turns on them. He was secretly working for the Empire, and he has been rounding up all these enemies of the Empire for them. And they basically all get put in those devices.
Here's what you didn't know. You're America's 5 most wanted people. And I went down the list and went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got you all now. And you're I guess that makes sense, I guess.
His plan makes sense because he's like, oh, once I heard your plan to gather up a bunch of heroes, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to sell you all to the Empire. He's basically, is what you find out is the Han Solo is actually the Lando. But even Lando redeems himself. This guy is just like a piece of shit who is like, no, money. Right. And literally a scene before this, he has like a personal scene with Korra where he's like, you and your friends, they really taught me to be good because you're fighting for your ideals. And now I think I'm going to be good. I'm just like, man, this guy, he's definitely not going to double cross.
You've seen Oppenheimer. Irishman, Cillian Murphy.
That whole thing was just a setup. We
know Kai.
Yeah, well, he's saying though, like, oh, thanks, I'm gonna leave my life of fucking crime behind. Can I just go tell him I'm done criming? Can we do a pit stop? And like that allows him to take them to be delivered. Like he's lying to her the whole time anyway.
No, he's
probably the smartest character in this movie.
Yeah, well, he was just like, I see an opportunity to round up all these wanted criminals and sell them to the Empire as a bounty hunter. Hell yeah, I'm gonna do it.
And all I had to do is say I have a ship and they're on board already. Like, this is too easy, man.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I would watch like wacky races, like the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, where it would have like Penelope Pitstop and Muttley and Dick Dastardly and all those people. But it would go through the line and you'd be like, this is the car with the little Italian mobsters. And we go to another car and be like, this is these specific characters. You'd watch every episode and be like, I don't know who any of those people are. This show never focuses on any of them. I never learn anything else. I never get anything else out of this show. That is how I felt watching this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. It's like Max Rebo has more character development.
Yes, Max Rebo does have more character development.
So we're all captured now.
Look, we're saving all the character development for next movie, probably.
Again,
what a choice as a filmmaker to make.
Again, this twist reminded me of an animated movie called Titan AE. If you remember that.
Oh,
movie.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a twist where some of the crew are like actually bad and double cross them. In the end.
Yep.
But so Admiral Noble shows up. They trap all the most dangerous ones by, like you said, they're carrying those boxes. They said, "Oh, this is some goods that we're going to offload on this, off of our ship."
Mm-hmm.
Those boxes spring up. They're the fucking devices and
the crucifixion robots.
Yeah,
Bakugans.
So they essentially trap them all. And then Kai's like, let me tell you how my secret villain plan this whole time, and let me describe each one of you and your crimes against the Empire. We have, of course, the evil General Titus, who turned his forces against the Empire. We have Tarek. We have Nemesis. And, of course, Arthur-Leus, the most wanted criminal in the galaxy.
The Scar Giver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, They do this moment. This is truly where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because Noble is there and he's like, and I'm going to execute you, and here's why. And actually, Michael Hussman, you were such a cuck earlier. I'm going to make you even more of a cuck now. Get up, guy who played me
This
on
is
another
punishment
TV
for
show.
taking my
This
role in Game of
This is
Thrones.
Yeah.
what you get for replacing me on that show. You'll always be second billed as Dario Naharis. And you're like, my God, he's saying all this in this movie? That's insane.
Yeah.
And he gives him this like knife that's going
Power
to be
drill. Yeah.
drill. He
Space power
explains that
drill.
like
Sorry.
he explains that like Regent Belisarius. Oh, I do. Can we flash back real quick to talk about the hologram scene where they're talking to each other real quick?
Sure.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember that
Hologram
where Noble calls Regent Belisarius and it's this huge like they're on an ice snowy field and Regent Belisarius is like,
Oh,
bring
yeah,
her
he's
to
got, like,
me
that staff.
alive, and he smashes his staff on the ground
Yeah.
and it like makes sort of like the
Yep.
it like cracks the ice of the hologram they're on, and Noble's like, whoa, like and screens like reacting to it like they're in a hologram. It's the dumbest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like they're
But
in the
sorry.
Matrix or something.
It's
In this
exactly
virtual
like
world.
wow, yep.
Yeah.
So to cut back to, he gives Michael Hussman a power drill and says, I have to bring her back alive, but I want you to cut her brain stem and
You can
paralyze her
Yeah.
from the neck down because she's so dangerous. Michael Hussman goes like, Cora, like, this is so sad. And like
I'm
Cora's like
sorry.
crying and she's like, it's gonna be okay. And he's like, I'm really sorry. And he puts the power drill in the spot and all he has to do is like turn it to the right to kill her. And he's like, and I'm really sorry that you're free. And he turns the power drill to like the left, which unhooks
the
her
left
machine.
unlocks the
and
device,
she,
the
like,
right kills
you
you.
get-
Yeah.
Now, Jacob, why would that be the technology?
Well, it's very practical, you see, because
Yes.
the executioner would never want to release the prisoner unless they were about to double cross
Right.
Kai. But then I did like this scene where he fucking kills Kai because he puts the thing like under his chin and like
Yeah.
shoots
it
into his
up.
brain.
Yeah.
It's like,
But,
oh, Han Solo, you're fucking dead. Nice
Yeah.
trying to double cross us.
I'm Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides grabbing the kid away from the spider lady, this is the only thing he's done in the movie.
Oh, you know what, Mike? I will give him that spider thing. I did forget that he did
Because
that.
Cora
That's
says
true.
that was really nice of you, and that's when she
Cora
falls
later
in
is
love with
like,
him.
I saw you save that girl from the spider. And you're like, yeah, I guess so.
Well, this
And
is
now we
the
have chemistry.
completion of his arc because he's
Yeah.
like a cuck loser throughout it who's like
Yeah.
cowardly and then finally does something not cowardly.
I'm
and saves
Dario
it.
Naharis.
That's right.
Oh
For
my
that locking
God.
system. How many
Yeah.
people got accidentally freed because it was like a trainee who didn't really remember which way to
Yes.
turn it?
Yes. Of
Yeah.
course.
You're
Great
thinking like, oh,
stuff.
they're in these devices. They're surrounded by troops with guns pointed at them. How are they going to get out of this situation? Well, it turns
Well,
out
you've-
very easily.
Poor
actually.
engineering,
forgotten
barely an
that-
inconvenience.
Yeah.
Well, you've forgotten that Cora's superpower is she hates being surrounded by people. So
Yes.
if that happens, she will kill them all.
It's very claustrophobic. Don't be
But
near
of
me.
course, so they unlock all these heroes. There's a big battle scene. Darian Bloodaxe dies because he sacrifices himself by jumping onto
It's
the
crazy.
ship to take out the gun.
Yeah.
He blows it. He fires a bunch of shots that keep missing. Finally,
Yeah.
he hits, and the guy falls forward on the thing to fall. It like cuts up and then hurts him. And Cyborg gives this look that's like, oh, like as he's dying, and the thing crashes, and you're like,
Yeah.
what was that worth, you idiot?
Mhm.
Right, just to save. Well, I guess this gun is like firing at his troops and blowing them up and stuff. So he saved the rest of his troops, but he
Mhm.
sacrificed himself. And then we get basically they easily overpower the Empire forces, and we get a one-on-one situation where it's Cora or Arthaleus, if you will, fighting Admiral Noble.
Mhm.
Now, can I just say
Yeah.
real quick, fan favorite character? Because you're probably going like, we guys haven't talked about Jimmy the Robot in a minute. Let me tell you all
of course.
something. He is not with this crew. He is back in
No.
the village sitting on a dock with the little blonde girl who's like, tell me a story. And he's like, oh, let me
see him
tell
at the
you a
end.
story
He's
of
got
the little
antlers now
girl.
for some reason.
He
Yeah.
got this flower
He's
crown
chilling.
put on him by this girl, but basically she's like, you should just go do like acid in the woods. And he's like, I could vibe on that. And he basically just
Yeah.
leaves.
I do like. He's probably my favorite character because he's like going through this crisis where he's like, I have the ability to like kill people, but I don't think I should or something. I assume that's his character. I don't really know honestly, but I
He
guess
has
we'll
no
find out
purpose
in
as
part
right now.
2.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there is that moment where he says to Will Smith, "I did not murder him."
Right.
Yeah, he said, "Are those Chuck Taylors?" Um, but I like that
What a fool!
Wow.
I guess he sees Cora fight off those attempted rapists at the beginning. He's like, "I really respect that you did that."
Aura, you're cool. If you ever put together a band of 7 samurais when you return, consider
Yeah.
me, the robot, one of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Oh, we've
I
done the
guess.
Seven Samurai anime had a robot, steampunk robot samurai in it. So
Really?
they've already done this
Sure.
idea. Anyway. So the big
Yeah,
fist
but
fight, it's very badass and cool.
yeah,
She breaks his arm twice, punches him in the dick.
she
It's very
basically beats the
badass and
shit out of him.
cool.
He gets his ass
Yeah.
kicked, and then
Like
he's
what if
like
she
laughing. He's like, "This is
Yeah.
perfect." And then she like hits him, and he falls off this platform, probably to his death. Right? We definitely won't
Yeah.
see him again.
No, he's dead.
My shillelagh.
Oh, yeah, he gets shilleligh'd. She knocks
He
his
gets
teeth out because it would be badass if we saw his
Kylo
teeth fall
Ren,
out, you know?
yeah, where his mask gets broken, but it's not a mask. It's just he gets disfigured in his
Like a
face.
dumb little
Mhm.
hat. He does
Yeah.
say when he's arresting all of them that turning in this much of a bounty will earn him a spot in the Senate. So I did
Yeah.
like that idea that like he was moving up in the ranks, right?
Well, yeah, because he's
Mhm.
turning in all these wanted criminals,
The
and especially
Scar-giver.
Archelaus. Yeah.
Stop saying that.
I'll never stop saying that.
I guess
Oh,
if you think of his rank, he's literally his job in the military right now is go and get the wheat and bring it back.
go and get the
Yeah,
wheat.
which
You're
he's
the
an
wheat
admiral.
guy.
Which
He wants
admiral
the
is a pretty high up position already. So you think you'd be
Yeah, but
above
Yeah.
going to the village to get wheat when he's an
right, so he must be a
admiral, but
pretty shitty admiral, but he's like, I'm gonna move up the
I
ranks
mean,
now.
again, I don't want to be that guy, but if you can travel through space, you can grow wheat.
hmm
no, you need
Why
the
do they
land, you
need
need the
this?
sun, you need the space, you need the dirt.
Yeah,
So
I
they
have
don't
heard of those
they don't
things.
have enough farms on the home world, I guess, for some reason.
Yeah.
They ward it too much. But anyway, he gets Dusky, never see him again.
Yeah.
Ever.
No,
And
no,
with
he definitely doesn't come back. And
Like
then they go
another-
to the village, but they're like, basically, we defeated Admiral Noble, so I guess we did what we set out to accomplish. So I guess that's the end of that.
Mhm.
But then they're like, you know what? Let's stay in this village, I guess, and like, just in case we do want to fight some more Empire people. I don't remember. It's been like a week since
General
I've seen this
Titus.
movie.
General Titus says like, hey, "That was pretty. We won our first mission," and they're all like, "Yeah, that's pretty good." And he's like, "No, it's like a big deal." Like he keeps saying that. He's like one blow
we
and
had a
like
fight in
them
that
and like
airport, that
that's like
spaceport.
we like really did something today. Everybody's kind of
Yeah.
like, not really. Like you're kind of hyping it up too much.
No, you defeated one group of like Empire forces that is like a small platoon.
But no one's happy about the victor. Like feels like celebratory. It's just like, all right, we're
No.
done. There's no
Darian Bloodaxe
Yeah.
died. Yeah.
true.
Blood axe.
We screamed loudly and shot a machine gun into the air for him, as you want to do.
Right. Revenge is the most important
No.
thing, or not important. I'm not really sure.
hmm
And then they go back to the village, and then we get guess who's not really dead? It's Admiral Noble.
Right. What about
He's hooked up
second
all these
ending?
machines. Yeah.
hmm
So
Yeah.
obviously,
Rise, Admiral Noble.
Exactly.
which is a great
Exactly.
cliffhanger for part 2. Oh, can they defeat this guy they've already defeated before? I don't know.
Yeah.
Find
Don't
out.
fuck it up again. They tell him.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Which there's something sinister like about you can't even die in this empire. That's like an okay idea, but it's also this is just Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Well,
It
I
is like
also
Darth Vader in
read
that he-
something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dies
just-
at the end of New Hope, basically, or zooms off. into
Yes.
a
Well, this is
TIE fighter.
Mustafar and then
Yeah.
repairing him.
There's a novelization out right now of this film that I guess is like the director's cut, so it is like the full breadth of the universe or whatever. And there's
great.
a fact about the people in red with the masks who follow Admiral Noble around
Yeah.
are called the recorders, who will wipe people's brains and write the false history of the mother world onto their brains so that their eternal records of a fake history will be continued. It's this whole
Sure.
thing that's like a play on fake news where I'm like, Did they even say their fucking names in this movie? What the
No,
fuck
they
are
were
you
just
talking
there, and I was like, this looks interesting.
look cool.
They seem very Warhammer or very
But can I
Dune.
say,
They just have
Jacob,
these
the
random
three of
guys.
them are typically together with a giant box, a giant gray box. They
Yeah.
literally just look like the witches with the mother box in Justice League. Like they look
Oh,
exactly
sure.
like that shit.
Or the
They've got these like
Dathomir
Spanish
witches.
Inquisition hats or something.
Yes,
Um,
they do. Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. Like there's some
Oh,
details
very
of this
interesting is
world
how you're
building
ending this.
that I was like,
That's it. Very
tell me
interesting.
more. Well, it's
Oh,
just
what?
there's
Tell me.
details that I was like, this world could be interesting, but I just don't know anything about it because everything I learn about is either through a very stilted monologue or just like meeting a character and seeing a cool scene of them doing something. Like I don't get the feeling of a larger world like I do in like a Dune or something like that. So
No.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the plot of it. Yeah,
Can I say one last really stupid design choice that I think is one of the dumbest things ever made?
Yeah.
The muzzle flares of the laser guns are so bright that they take up most of the frame so that when you're watching it, you can't see what's happening. And then when they hit something, they do this kind of melting, globby explosion that is also, again, so big you cannot see anything. So if a lot of it's happening in one scene, you truly have no fucking clue what you're looking at.
Yeah. And there's lens flares and stuff, typical Zack Snyder aesthetic flourishes in the action scenes and stuff. I mean, personally, I like the way this movie looks. I like, I thought the action scenes, like I told you guys earlier, my hot take, I think some slow motion action scenes in Star Wars would improve it. Like if the prequels had Zack Snyder action every time they were lightsabering, I would love it.
Wow.
So
the Christ metaphors abounding.
Yeah.
It's just baffling how inefficient. Like I don't know what the budget is with this thing, but it's like you're building all these cool sets and locations and you spend no fucking time in them. You don't like let us live. Like we don't even see the interior of these spaceships. Like you're spending all this money to build several different, communities, but you spend zero time in them. And then you're
right.
gone.
It already feels like a movie that was cut down so that they could release an extended director's cut to make again a fake Snyder cut situation. Which, why did you do that, Netflix? Why did you do that? No one wants to see the inferior cut first if you already know that you're going to release a director's cut. Like,
yeah,
stop
I'm
trying
mad
to
about
manufacture this. Yeah, like.
Is there nudity in this movie? Is there a lot of curse words? There's not, right?
No.
I mean,
I don't think so.
They just took that stuff out, so the next one will be R?
Oh man,
Well,
maybe.
I mean, with all the attempted rapes and stuff in this movie, I think it might be R.
Oh, so what? The next one really is just unrated, I guess.
Well, it's just that there's an hour of footage that they cut out apparently that makes it a whole different movie because they wanted to.
Okay.
Oh my god! You know what?
We demand the director's cut.
Right, which is stupid.
They're always going to release the director's cut apparently. So it's just I don't know why they did that. Again, like very stupid idea.
This has got the Rise of Skywalker problem where we're just hopping around here to here to here to here to here, and it's just like.
Yeah, but I wonder if the director's cut like actually does like flow better and they explain more about.
If I have an extra hour for you to actually tell me things or show me things, yeah, I'm sure this shouldn't be in the public. This shouldn't be out. If there's other stuff that will help
their
the
idea
story
was
work.
like, let's release an inferior version so people will demand the better version, and then we'll get them to watch it twice. We're fucking geniuses. We run
now
Netflix.
my movies have DLC. I fucking hate it here.
Well, but just to criticize the man one last time, it really is an economy of storytelling issue that every time he gets this free pass excuse of like, well, my movies are better when they're 4 hours. Where it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't make a short film?
Yeah, this could have been a mini series.
Well, another thing with his style too that I dislike is it needs to be 4 hours because everything is slow mo. Like somebody just grabbing a wheat or like I made a joke, picking up a fork, but everything is filmed as if it's like the second coming of Christ. Like it's the holiest shit that's ever been put on a sensor. Like he's overvaluing what like he's making. Like I think he makes too big of a deal out of some of the small stuff.
You're probably right. You're probably
I sent you guys edit of A New Hope in the style of Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
That's adding slow-mo.
Really
It's for
made me
comedy
laugh.
effect. It's funny. I'll put it in the show notes.
But also
yeah.
that it doesn't do the whole story, Mike. That literally that's just like the first third of Star Wars is very funny.
Yeah, exactly. And then like
But you don't
Darth
think
Vader
that-
flashbacks. Yeah, it's great.
You're telling me that if you saw the prequels and the lightsaber fights had some slow motion effects and stuff like that, you wouldn't think that's super cool?
Mm,
I don't like slow-mo.
I don't think so. Would
I
slow-mo
like the,
improve the Mustafar fight?
I think if it was used in moderation, I think that's what
It's never used in moderation from him. He doesn't know the
I
meaning of
think
the
it
word.
is. I think it is.
In this,
I like the ramping from fast to slow, back to fast again. I think that always looks cool.
it does look cool, but I don't think it's
yeah.
used sparingly at all.
Maybe I'm just a chump for, appealing to my baser instincts and liking it.
It's badass and cool. I tire of it easier.
Again,
but,
I will watch any garbage anytime if it's set in space or set in a make-believe fantasy medieval setting. I will fucking watch it and enjoy it. So there you go.
All right. Well, is it that time, boys? Final thoughts, maybe after this. I forget we have to watch it again. When
You have to hear
actually
my
complete.
tragic backstory, Mike. Let me
This is
tell
mine.
you.
This movie is mine. We'll catch you right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we're wrapping up our conversation on Netflix's Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Child of Fire, Part
Yeah.
1. Part 1, Child
The
of
Child of Fire.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, it's flip.
Yes.
I think
How
I
dare
think
you.
in classic Zack fashion, he gets the opening title wrong, where it
Mm.
comes up in the wrong order. So,
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Oh man, it's
Uh,
cool edgy fonts in the corner. Abraxas, home planet of Snip Snore, and it's like,
Snip
whoa.
Snore.
I don't know anybody's name in this show, but like those seem like inconsistent when they show up.
Oh,
Like
100%. Yeah.
not every planet gets them. It feels like
No,
I don't know.
no. Again, there's a million better movies than this. So don't watch this or do
Literally
watch
1
it.
million.
Yeah, if you've seen a movie before, then you've probably seen a movie better than this movie. I would
The
say.
mid journey of movies.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Yep.
Yeah,
Damn.
but look, I mean, a lot of artists are inspired and take things. I mean, the original Star Wars
Mhm.
was, obviously hero's journey mixed with Kurosawa, mixed with World War II dogfighting.
Mm-hmm.
Tarantino. So obviously artists have been remixing and interpolating previous influences before. But I think Zack Snyder, the reason why this is just more egregious is that it's so generic and it's like so obvious, and he
Yes.
doesn't really do anything to like actually remix it. He's just sticking a bunch of things together that's just like, I don't know, it's just not good.
Jacob,
So-
if you look at like an album cover for Yes, or like a prog rock album, or like Heavy Metal Magazine, like Zack
Yes.
Snyder's saying he's drawing from, or like
Right.
2000 AD, or any of those, if you look at them, they are wild fantasy, even when they are sci-fi. They are big, they are bold, they are interesting.
Yeah.
It is him looking at that and taking inspiration, but going like, yeah, but sort of like the Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet sort of like retro pop futuristic look. What if we replace that with greasy muscle dudes and greasy muscle women sort of like flexing and kissing each other? And you're like, you just can't help but be yourself, Zach. Like you really
Yeah.
just are interested in one thing.
Yeah.
It's like his version of that pulp sci-fi type of thing. But everything about this is just the most generic version that it could be. It's like he didn't even with the names and stuff, like he didn't do more than one pass on like thinking of things. Oh, we'll call this the home world. We'll call you Nemesis. There's no like you said,
Right.
oh, you want to give that a
saying
little
their
more
names-
thought? Yeah.
You saying their names are Cora and Kai is damning. That is
Yeah.
damning.
Korra is
Right.
already derivative
Korra,
from the
the
Avatar
Legend of
series.
Korra.
Yeah. Like, oh man.
So yeah.
Everyone's heard that quote, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the whole quote is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness.
Ah.
This is that.
But again, I think it's just,
mediocre.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Zack Snyder, he puts the storytelling second to just making cool images. Like I said, like he had some ideas of like oh, wouldn't it be cool if a guy like flew a space hippogriff and then he's like, let me design a world and a story around these images, and then the story just kind of sucks, and it would be like the story that like a mid dungeon master would write for like a tabletop game, but wouldn't really pass muster for like Hollywood screenwriting.
AI would write it.
Yeah.
And a movie that does move quickly and it goes to a lot of locations, it's all over that works, is Dungeons and Dragons, the movie. But I like to think that maybe Zack Snyder, this is how he experiences cinema. Like, he loves the visuals and he needs people to explain to him in words what is happening. Oh, so that person, they were from the other planet, remember? And then they did this. And like, he needs people to tell him the story because he doesn't understand it. And that's how he makes movies. Expo dumps.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all agree that it's a great movie, and we strongly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want you to watch the full cut. I feel bad.
I am definitely going to be watching part 2, The Scargiver. And of course, we will probably do an episode about it. So get ready for that.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Orchard. This was my idea, by the way. So
yes. Well, you recommended it by saying it's the worst movie that you saw in 2023 on our last.
Does that hold mustard? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
No, I would say The Flash is still a worse movie than this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
The Flash tells a story.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Ray Fisher would be so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed watching this more than I enjoyed watching The Flash. I enjoyed watching it more than Dial of Destiny. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't think it's a good movie. No, but again, I'll watch Valerian and the Thousand Planets or whatever and enjoy that. So
a better movie.
Yeah. I liked it more than Army of the Dead. I'll say that, which I didn't really like. So I don't know. Zack Snyder, keep doing your thing, you crazy wild
it's
kid.
Universally not liked. It's bombing. You said you liked it like less than a film we made before, or more than a bad film we made before.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing is the advice. No notes. Don't change anything. You're doing great.
No. Keep
completely fails on every level as a film. Keep on keeping on, buddy.
You make no changes, buddy.
Again, just make a video
accept
game
notes either.
Like, you can make a video game as long as you want.
I think start directing porno. That is my recommendation.
Damn.
I think Zack Snyder could find his niche directing
slow-mo.
porno.
He
That might
could.
be the only thing he can accomplish.
He will elevate the art form for real.
He would.
Yeah.
It would become art. I will say that. Porn would become art if Zack Snyder made it.
And the physiques of the people he picked for his movies, my God.
It would be insane, dog. You'd be like,
his
that
first
woman
movie
made
would
me
be
like,
Mount Olympus orgy. It's like the gods.
Well, I also think Zack Snyder's like the king of having secret, like homoerotic, things in his movies without even probably
he doesn't
realizing
understand
it himself.
Yes, of course.
Like the whole movie 300.
Yeah, the entire thing. That's
I was like, why do gay guys like this movie? You're like, Zach, shut up.
Yeah.
It's just badass and cool, right? Like, yeah.
But ultimately, it's a great movie. I loved it. No, it's a bad movie, but I enjoyed watching it.
Give me some final thoughts, Mike. You look like you got something to say about it.
No, it's just I don't like it at all. I think it's Supergirl, the same character as Korra, probably.
Yeah.
With a different power set, but tragic backstory. Krypton War. Oh, I'm brooding. Korra War. I'm brooding. They're the same.
Well, Korra, and Korra is the same as Gamora, like you said, but we also just don't see Komora,
Komora.
We don't see Belisarius very much in this whole movie. So her whole
he cracked the hologram, Jacob.
That's right. He had that one scene,
my friend.
But like that's who her ultimate nemesis is. It's not this Admiral Noble guy.
It's the guy from Hawkeye, and maybe we'll talk about another character from
Fraffy.
this. He's
another Irishman.
Fraffy.
Fraffy.
He's the guy who interprets for Echo for the Maya Lopez character.
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll be talking about that soon.
All right.
Ultimately, So what were you saying, Mike? Final thoughts. You loved it. Yeah.
I don't like it at all. I'm upset that they did a cut where they probably literally did make this worse, which is hard to imagine it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because everything we're saying about the connective tissue is missing. It's just then they cut it
Like I
out
said,
on
it feels like a
purpose.
bunch of cut scenes cut together. What I was wondering is like, what is Netflix thinking right now about this deal they've made with Zack Snyder, where he's got this overall deal with him now? And this movie came out. It's been universally panned by everybody. I don't even know if the Snyder cultists like
No.
it. Yeah,
Well, there's a light little defense, but it seems like most people are like, "Oh, this isn't what we wanted." And a lot of
yeah,
people being like, "Well, when the full cut comes out, yeah." Now, Jacob, I'll
exactly.
say, marketing budget on this was huge. It was everywhere. The Video Game Awards had a huge trailer for it. On
Right.
Reddit, it was every ad 2 weeks before it premiered. Now, it has spent 2 weeks in the Netflix top 10. What's interesting now, of course, is when you go to Google, you can put in Netflix top 10 and you can go to their little side website that they do where they give you the streaming data of not only those things in the top 10, but how many clicks or views or seconds per hour streamed or whatever bullshit thing they do that gives you broken down into the millions of it. This is not generating as much as they did on like much smaller original hits. Like
Sure.
they licensed like what they have something they have on their on Netflix right now. I think like Talladega Nights is like destroying right now, where it's like, oh,
Sure.
Rebel Moon isn't even getting as much views as like a Will Ferrell movie they licensed to
But see,
get.
I think
Like, oh, that's not
everyone,
great.
They
I
got
think everyone
Sandlered.
watched it, even though they hated it. Like a lot of people already watched it, maybe. But the marketing was crazy because it was like, yeah, Zack Snyder's the movie that was too hard R for Star Wars. It's Zack Snyder's Star Wars, but it's
The
going to be
visionary
original.
mind.
It's going to be incredible.
Kathleen Kennedy read the script and she puked.
That's how
Like,
they would market
what?
it.
I will say, so
Huh?
Netflix has this strategy of they won't show you the poster for the movie on this thumbnail. It'll just be like a random image of a character in a movie, and they have this algorithm to say like, oh, you'll want to see this character because it's like an actor or something like that. I was when I was with my family for the holidays, I was kind of looking through Netflix, and like me and my sister were like, we could watch something. Rebel Moon came up, and it was just a picture of Charlie Hunnam. And my sister was like, "Oh, Charlie Hunnam, I like that actor. Let's watch that." So
Wow.
apparently
Wow.
that works, I guess, that algorithm they have.
It explains why Jenna Ortega is on every one of mine.
Scream
Yeah.
is Jenna Ortega. Well, yeah. This is going to my sci-fi album. I've always had this pitch, this world where everybody has their own shit made for them by AI, right? Like I like Bruce Lee and dragons.
That's
what
what
if
yeah,
AI
Netflix
just
is
made Bruce
doing.
Lee versus the dragon? But this is getting into that territory. Even
Yeah.
the thumbnails you're seeing are personalized. I don't
Well, and
like it.
Netflix has been on this for a while because like an algorithm basically tells them what's marketable. Like with House of Cards, when that came out, it was like, oh, people like political thrillers and Kevin Spacey. Okay, House of
David
Cards
Fincher.
and David Fincher, right? So
The Fincher.
I don't know what exactly the algorithm was saying about Zack Snyder. It's like people love Zack Snyder, I guess.
I
I don't
think they
know.
really do look at the internet engagement and go like, you got to admit that restore the Snyderverse hashtag was trending one time
Right.
a year ago, and
But I
people were
don't
like,
think HBO
that doesn't
even.
equivalent to anything. Yeah, HBO was
I'm
like
pretty sure
that
they
meant
lost money spending more
yes.
money to finish the
Mhm.
Snyder
Toby
cut.
Emmerich came out and was like, it was bots. It was
Yeah.
just bots who were driving that hashtag. He's like, we
It's very
have
much
the data.
astroturfed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like
The
there's no
Snyder,
denying it.
the hardcore Snyder fan base is not as big as they appear
No.
online. And we've known this for a long time. Same thing happens when a Marvel movie comes out and it gets review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't mean because everyone hated it. It just means that a very vocal, small percentage of people
Right.
really hated it and panned it on purpose because it's part of this ultimate larger culture war thing where they say everything Marvel does is bad and everything Zack
Right.
Snyder does is good. It's really boring discourse that I hate and should
It
go back to
is.
2016 or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
it sucks, dude.
Yeah.
But I do find it funny. One thing I like about this movie is the fact that even they are pissed off about it because it's doing what they would complain about. They're like, why are they always complain about emasculated male characters and we literally have
Right.
Cuckman, and it's like it's everything that
Or
they
American
hate coming
Sue,
from their
or as
favorite
American
guy.
Sue. Right.
Yeah, so I think that's very funny that
Yeah.
Yep, I thought he was the best. I thought he was the best, you guys. It's like he just is a cool
You're gonna
badass.
wait till you see Gunner in part 2. He's gonna be totally
He's gonna be so
different.
buff, dude.
He's been working out the whole time.
Hey,
yeah.
Nemesis, give me one of your robot hands. I'm gonna try to learn that fire sword.
You know what?
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we have characters like experiencing character arcs, maybe there'll be a movie to watch.
That's why I looked at that trailer for part 2 and I was like, this feels like a real movie more than part 1 did, where it's just getting the gang together.
They're just
Yeah.
handing each other's
It's the
business
defending
cards.
the town part of the Seven Samurai.
Honestly, Jaimin Hunsu was wearing like an old timey Irish cap in it, and I was like, yeah, even this like looks more interesting than anything we saw in the film.
Right.
And that's also, again, there's so much space Irish stuff, Shillelagh and Charlie Hunnam, but that's just a ripoff of Star Trek The Next Generation when we had a whole colony of space Irish people.
Space Irish.
What a show.
Space Irish.
They're ancestors of them that they were.
I don't want to talk about this movie anymore.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Movie.
It drained me. I tried to rewatch it again before we did this. I got about 20 minutes in and I was like, I'm not getting anything new out of this. There's really nothing there. Like it's all on the surface. You don't need to ever rewatch it.
This is who I am.
Again, I think
This is who I am.
Zack Snyder, not a good screenwriter, not a good storyteller, doesn't seem to understand the narrative structures of popular filmmaking very much. But he does, he has a certain knack for cool images again, like I said.
And arguably a bad cinematographer too. His best films are shot by Larry Fong, who no longer works with him. And now Zach shoots his own movies. I think he's too distracted on set. I think he's got too much to do.
Yeah.
Focus on directing, dude. You can do
this
that.
movie did look better than Army of the Dead from a cinematography standpoint, but it's not as good as Watchmen, which I think actually has really great cinematography and really great framing. And of course, they can use the source material to be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we just did this frame exactly?
Hey,
so it has that.
Here's a
benefit,
reveal, dog. I have the Sucker Punch unrated extended cut on Blu-ray. I think that movie looks awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And it's a music video. It's just hot girls dancing to music.
Right.
I like watching that movie.
Shooting machine guns.
It's like, I don't know. It's like I can get tricked by this stuff when he's hitting it right. So I don't know.
And that's that side shot in 300 where the first time we kind of bore witness to the camera ramping. It's kind of that oneer almost. Like that. That's still like a really cool fucking scene.
Again, 300 and Watchmen have the benefit of just being like, we'll make it look like the comic looked, and he pretty much did that and looked cool. So yeah, I don't know what he needs to do. It's just not this, I guess.
Well, he shouldn't write his own scripts. We know this. He should not be writing his own scripts, and pick one. Either get somebody who you jive with that will direct while you shoot the thing, or have someone else shoot it. You can't do both. Should not do both.
Well, can we make a comparison real quick here and say a filmmaker that seemed to give up their entire career to just focus on one sci-fi property? His name's James Cameron. That's what happened to Avatar, right?
Yeah.
And the criticism for those films for a long time was like, they're a little generic, but they're pretty interesting to look at. Now, Jacob, what did you just say about this film? Pretty generic, interesting to look at.
Look,
now, the difference in the levels between these two and the distance there, and I think what that comes down to is, and let's just admit here, I think James Cameron will probably end up staying on Pandora for the rest of his life. I do not imagine that Zack Snyder will be spending the rest of his career making. Tell me the name of the planet one more time. Travolgo.
Velt.
Velt.
I remembered it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, James Cameron, he didn't. Zack Snyder didn't say I'm going to make 7 parts of this movie or whatever that James Cameron's going to make.
He's
for
implying
Avatar.
some stuff, dog.
Avatar: The Way of Water, especially, is a much better movie than this movie, I will say, and better looking.
This isn't a movie. This is character intros.
Yeah, it's a video game.
6 vignettes.
I think when James Cameron is like this evil guy who hunts whales with an Australian accent, who's literally just going to be like, ha ha ha, it's all about the money, whales, whales, whales. And you're like, oh, that's kind of like very generic surface level writing. I think he uses that to be like, okay, you know what archetype I'm playing with now? now let me like really rock the story with you so that I can focus on the like beautiful young child saying to his father, I see you finally, let's like learn
Yeah.
to swim together and like
Well, there's
focus
the great
on
family
that stuff.
stuff, and there's the spider and Quaritch
using that
thing.
shorthand to truncate those times to be like, you understand what bad guys are like. So let me
Yeah.
focus on the stuff that's interesting to me as a storyteller. Zack Snyder's like, you understand what I'm saying. I don't need to explain any of it. And you're like, well, right, but you don't. There's nothing on top of it that you seem interested in. You're
Yeah.
just jumping around saying you don't have to explain any of this.
Right.
No,
Well,
I see
Avatar:
this-
Way of Water also has Avatar Quaritch crushing his own skull, his human skull, which was
Jacob, the
insane thing.
greatest moment of film in
Yeah.
2022. I mean, I think about it all the time.
But James
that
Cameron
has-
is a much better filmmaker than Zack Snyder. I think we can all
And
agree
what-
on that.
You think?
What if James
You know, he
Cameron let
made,
Zack Snyder
Aliens and-
DP one of his movies?
He wouldn't because they would just clash too much. James Cameron's too much of a perfectionist of his own things that he would probably not get along with Zack Snyder in a creative sense. I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
just Zack Snyder is like a high schooler. I see the scribblings of his notebook, and there's this planet, and it's so fucking. And he just like, I feel like he's just a
Yeah.
child on set. Like,
Wow,
I'm just
you
having fun.
you did the Stussy S a lot, and you can do it a lot of different ways. That's cool.
What if
He's like,
Superman had
"Yeah."
that?
Yeah,
He wanted the
It's true,
Stussy
he's
on
kinda like a
Superman.
god,
You're
if you
like,
think about it
But
too.
can you draw anything else? He's like, but I'm so good at the Stussy S. And you're
Then
like,
he's like,
"Oh,
did
I
you
know."
realize that he's like a Christ metaphor? Did you realize that, dude? That's
It's
crazy.
like fucking, that's fucking deep, man.
They're like
That's
gods,
fucking
dude.
Cool as hell, my man. Want to see how much I can bench? Oh my
Yeah.
god. Also,
just-
something that always makes me laugh, Short King. He's like 5'4" or something like that.
Oh.
Just that always makes me
Yeah.
giggle.
But again, I
He's
see him
off
on
the guy.
on set in behind
Yeah.
the scenes stuff, and it looks like he's having a great time. It looks like
People love him.
like working with him.
People love
so-
him. Yes.
yeah.
He seems so enthusiastic. That's what I mean, like the teenager thing. Like he has not let that young wonder with just the shit that he thinks is cool, and he chases it down. You know, it's like good
Right.
for you, man. I guess.
Yeah.
Not a great film to watch, but he's having fun, and so are the people around him. Better than a Michael Bay who's like throwing megaphones and shit. So
Yeah.
I'll take
Yeah.
Snyder over Bay in that sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
There you go.
Megan Fox was like, I'll never work with Michael Bay again. I have never heard a single person say they will never work with Zack Snyder again. The opposite.
Right.
Ray Fisher ruined his career to say, I loved
Right.
working with Zack Snyder.
Jason
That's
Momoa was like,
That
I
means
fucking
something.
love this guy.
Hell yeah.
Hey, dude, they
This
probably got
fucking
along
guy, man.
great.
Yeah.
Bruce, Aqua Blood Axe. What do you Aqua Trident? What do you think about that? Blood Trident.
I'm not too
Jason
busy
Momoa,
right now.
Momoa does need to be in part 2. I don't know if they already shot it. They just add his character somehow.
Well, Carla Gugino, the person he's put in almost every one of his projects, I was
Watchmen.
very surprised.
Yeah,
I bet she's the queen, or whoever was married to the king would be my bet.
could be. Yeah.
It's a good bet. Well, look at us
but that's
talking
Zack
about old
Snyder.
Zach. Yeah, it's
I
like
hate
look
it,
at
Mike.
us.
it seems like a cool, fine person, bad movie. That's all.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
movie.
No notes, Jacob Setter.
no
You're
notes.
keep doing your thing.
Exactly.
Keep
Yeah, I don't know
doing
what
your
he's going to do
thing.
next after this whole saga.
He
what
wants to
could
make
move
the
on to.
Fountainhead so bad, and then he like
Oh,
has all these
sure.
other ideas where you're just like, Zach, someone has to.
But you
rein
know
you
his
in.
interpretation of the
Mhm.
Fountainhead is just like, oh, it's like cool that like he's
Yeah.
like an architect or whatever.
I also
Right,
want to
right.
point out his production company used to be called Sick and Twisted Pictures until his daughter committed suicide. Then he very quietly changed the name to Stone Quarry Productions, which I find very interesting. He's just an edgelord. I mean, that's what he is. That's
Yeah.
why he likes Rick and Morty. I mean, that makes so much sense that he's probably like, Pickle Rick, that's so fucking funny, Dan. And Dan Harmon's probably like, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
he would probably, he would want to direct like
Szechuan sauce, am I right? That's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Ever
know.
think about
He
space?
would want to expand on like the whole Rick multiverse thing, which, that show is kind of making fun of the ideas of multiverses in itself and critiquing it.
It's
but
laughing at anything that would take itself seriously.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Zack Snyder only knows how to take everything seriously.
Everything the most seriously. Martha. Yeah.
Martha, why'd you say that name, Mike?
Oh shit. I'm sorry.
Remember when Cora says Belisarius? Why did you say that name?
There we go.
Yeah.
I think he should do the.
That
He
was
should do the.
that was his home world's name.
Yeah, Marthelius. They should let him do this. The Shadow the Hedgehog movie. That's got the right edgelord energy. I think. You know, Shadow the Hedgehog's got a gun. He says, "Damn," you know.
Yes.
Let him do that.
Hey, you know what? I'll shout out one last thing. This is something my brother-in-law watches. So shout out to listener Joe, who was talking to me about the Foundation on Apple. Right? Do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah.
No.
So here's another thing. He pointed this out on that series. And I think he gave it up pretty quick, or he only watched like a couple episodes after reading the book, where he pointed out it's based on the Isaac Asimov book. It was like the biggest book ever in science fiction, The Foundation. I think it's even the story that sets up.
It's one of those things that was like unadaptable for a long time until they figured
totally.
out how to do it.
Until we got David S. Goyer, the genius behind Man of Steel and, you know, Dark Knight, like a connection to Zack Snyder, right? And that book, I think, is like, well, every science fiction idea came from this. And the thing that Joe was saying to me was, it's so interesting to see how dated it is. Like, everything in the book is centered around 10,000 years in the future, they're still using nuclear power because nuclear power was the big scary thing when the book was getting written, right? And I think when you have these old-timey books that people hold in such reverence that, like, you look at now where you're like, well, like, none of this is like interesting or like fresh now. That's kind of what this film feels like, right? Just it's not fresh in any original way at all.
Well, when you have to adapt like Asimov or someone like that, at least like with Blade Runner, it's adapted from Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, but they didn't just straight adapt that story. They updated it and they made this whole world with the Blade Runners and all this stuff, and made it really cool. So I don't know.
You have to put a modern lens on it. I agree with you.
I guess like a full circle Colin's pitch at the beginning, space prefix. Like this, it's not a sci-fi world. It's not building a world. It's just painting the tropes of other movies, but it doesn't have a cohesive universe. I don't know how things are structured. Like it's just scattershot. It's just space.
That's why to me it feels like, again, I've said it a bunch of times, it feels like a video game. And like maybe the lore would be, in a video game, you would go around, you read notes on the ground or whatever that would fill in the lore for you, that maybe the cutscenes don't explain certain things, but you kind of get where you get voice memos or whatever that fill in the lore. 3
rooms built for every planet. Like that, or 3 structures, and that's it. Yeah. There's nothing beyond
go
the
to that
frame.
Location, do your quest, go back.
Oh, this shillelagh's +2 damage. I'm actually going to equip this one.
Yeah, great. Oh, I can ride the. Keep the mount.
And yes, I would play a video game.
That's not a droidica
movie. If you're wondering if I would or not, yes, I would play. The Rebel Moon.
I don't play the
game.
Star Wars games that much. I would not be playing a Rebel Moon game, my friend.
You just know it would be like an Ubisoft open world game, like where you go around and you do quests. You can do quests for the side characters. There'll be a space Viking. They'll be like, "Oh, I need you to deliver this grain to the next village over," or something.
Yeah,
and I would probably play.
I'd love delivering that
for
grain.
100 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like slop a lot of the times, and that's what this is. So
Space slop.
Space
slop. Yes.
I wore my NASA sweatshirt for this episode because I like space, and this does. It really does. It captures the wonder of space and really does it a service, using a setting to its maximum effect.
Yeah. If you want to watch something like this that's actually good, just watch Dune or Star Wars or anything like that.
Move over, Dune. This is the new universe. We're getting 7 movies and video games, comic books. Let's go.
I was a knight for a world I would never see, a servant for a king who was dead, and a princess that I worshipped that I would never know.
That's a really good
character.
It's really good Jimmy right there.
Yeah, it's good Jimmy. I can't believe there wasn't
thank
someone
you for
called
telling us that, Jimmy.
The Rebel Moon Knight in this. Maybe we will. Because that's derivative too.
We'll meet him next time.
Maybe get Rebel Wilson in here. Whatever.
Yeah, get all the rebels. Rebel without a cause.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there a big actor you would like to see cast in the next one as a surprise? It's
Dave Bautista.
John
Jason
Hamm.
Momoa. Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa would be good.
Henry
Yeah.
Cavill, Gal Gadot is probably very desperate for work right now. I
Yeah,
would
any
imagine
of those
any
old
these people.
Justice League people. Yeah.
Wow. Gal Gadot.
Batista,
in
yeah,
this.
Or
he
his
was around
mom,
really
Gal
good.
Gadot.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're such a wonder woman. That's what the king would say to her.
Mm-hmm.
When she shows up, the Wonder Woman theme just plays on the guitar. And you know she's not
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow.
Jeez. Well. Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Well-
Prince Fufu, you were known as the Griffin Rider, Jacob, of course.
That's
Oh.
right. RIP to the DCEU and RIP to the world of Rebel Moon.
I will say I did see Aquaman. It is a better film than this, and it does involve a
How
Mos
dare you.
Eisley Cantina scene where they do go to like a dark fish bar where all the fish are like, blah blah blah. What are you doing here? And maybe this is a spoiler, but I think this is great. Martin Short voices the gangster fish person that they have to interact with. So
No
very
kidding.
fun.
Okay.
Interesting. And
Yeah, watch
Steve
that
Martin
instead.
voices the other gangster
I
fish
wish
person.
that'd be great.
Well,
There's been a murder in this aquarium. You're like, oh wow, this is.
yeah.
Yep. This guy really hates oil cans. I don't know what else to say about this movie. We're
What else is there to say? Probably nothing. Normies,
We'll be back.
check it out on Netflix. Let us know what you thought, of course. Send us your thoughts.
Yeah.
Did you love it? We know you did.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No. Not to throw
Colin
another
Red,
thing out here, but I did not like his space heroine in the weird tentacle room that our main bad guy has.
Oh, you
that
know
was
what,
so weird.
That was maybe my
Getting
second
things
favorite
stuck on
scene.
him. Yeah.
When he's like, great news. Later, darling, later. And he's
And
like,
he's just
talking to the
completely
tentacle,
naked, yeah,
and you're
just
like,
hanging out.
oh, you're getting like your dick sucked by like
In front of your
elephant.
subordinate. It's like, damn,
Yeah.
Zack Snyder,
What
you
is this?
made a strong decision with this scene.
Yep.
Way to go. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's Rebel Moon. What else is there to say?
Yep.
Nothing.
I'm
Probably.
depressed.
What more
We
is there
talked
to
about this
say?
that long.
Stay tuned. We will be doing, commit to it right now. We will be doing a part 2, the Scar Giver episode.
Right.
Mm.
It makes me long for the Transformers days.
Yeah.
What can be said about this movie? The only thing that it itself says, and that it's nothing. So.
Hey,
That's
it's me,
right.
Mark Wahlberg is Sully, and now I'm on the Rebel Moon, and I'm the Scar Giver.
Oh, no, not Mark
Wow.
Wahlberg.
Oh,
Oh, it's
Marky
me,
Mark's
Ted. I'm here too. I'm Ted.
Oh,
there.
no.
What we should have been talking about today. All
Yeah,
right,
we got to do our
normies.
TED Talk at some point. Yeah.
That's right.
We're getting sick. We're feeling sick here.
Space
Our
sickness.
brains
We got
are
space
poisoned
sickness.
by that little blue parasite we were smoking earlier, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Jacob said, if you like this, reach out to us at normies_like_us. Tell us all about it. Rate, review, subscribe as well. That helps us out a lot. And check us out on our YouTube page.
That's right. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on SoundCloud. I don't know, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep, you know.
We are
And,
SoundCloud rappers, technically. Wouldn't you describe us as that?
Yes,
This
I
podcast
would.
is a rap.
I would.
Most certainly. Let's definitely rap on this
Spoken
one.
word.
Hell
I say
yeah.
rap on this one. Mike's right. All right.
That's
well,
right.
we've been your hosts in a galaxy far, far near you. Who knows what they try to get away with? But we're your
Yeah.
hosts. This is Colin Bloodaxe.
I'd say
Claim
Galaxy
blood
far,
axe.
far, far away from being profitable, but this is Nemixis.
Wow.
Net
And
Mike.
this is Jake Asarius, of course. From the dreaded
Region.
Homeworld.
Regent Jacob Sarius.
Yes.
Bring her
man.
to me.
Where's my daughter?
My daughter. The
All right,
Scargiver.
Normies.
Aluthea. What's her name? Aluthea. Say it one more time.
Arthelaus.
Okay, great. Bye.
The Scargiver.
Belarus.
Bye.
Bye.